Chapter 1169. In fact, Han Dong did not discover the intruder at the first moment. It was just that when he went to the core experimental area, there was a vague sense of strangeness. After all, Han Dong basically stayed here for the past few months and did not go out. He was here almost day and night to be responsible for the construction of Sub-City, the layout of the laboratory, and the discussion of the recent research direction with Dr. Swollen. It could be said that he had integrated himself with the environment here. Out of a sense of strangeness in his heart, Han Dong immediately scanned with the little magic eye. With his vision swept across the corner, the magic eye caught a ray of colorful light that did not belong to the laboratory. It was just that he could not see clearly what it was. For a moment, Han Dong felt as if he was facing a great enemy. After all, Han Dong valued the privacy of the sub-city very much. Not only did he set up a void mark on the outer wall, he also arranged a large number of crowmen to monitor. The construction of the underground experimental area also used high-purity black rock from London, which could effectively block signals and seal the space. Even so, there was still an intruder, and he came directly to the core experimental area. Han Dong decisively used the strongest and most life-saving mode, the Great Demon. While he sealed the place with the chains of hell, he also sent a message through the chains to the staff on the surface, asking them to send a signal for help to the church. In Han Dong's view, the existence that could quietly sneak into the core laboratory was probably a mythical body that was good at hiding. It might even kill everyone except Han Dong and destroy everything that they worked so hard to build. He had to stall for time and wait for the priest of the night support. However, things were not as bad as he expected. Just as the chains sealed the experimental area, the intruder actually took the initiative to walk out from the corner and, at the same time, completely removed the invisible color that covered the surface of his body. The two mysterious people, one tall and one short, hidden in a cloak, appeared in Han Dong's eyes. At the same time, a sense of homogeneity hit Han Dong's soul, so much so that his calf involuntarily glowed with starlight. The void. Han Dong immediately understood why the other party was able to sneak in so easily. The sense of homogeneity caused Han Dong to stare at the short, mysterious man. Just from the sense of homogeneity, Han Dong could tell that the other party's mastery of void was far superior to Han Dong's. They were not even on the same level. Han Dong was only indirectly touching the void by mimicking it from the side. The mysterious man in front of him was an expert who had walked out of the void. At this moment, a rather magnetic and ethereal voice came from under the hood. Looks like we've completely misunderstood. We thought the city of London was breaking the rules of the world by researching alien technology. So that's how it is. You should be the special human who won the London game together with Green. Right? Yes, what's the matter? Han Dong's expression was serious, and he looked very angry. After all, this involved Han Dong's important privacy. According to the law of a certain human country, trespassing private property was punishable by death. I hope you can understand about the trespassing. Our purpose this time was to investigate the city of London. We accidentally found a sub-city that was being expanded, so we wanted to come and take a look. We didn't expect to find the void imprint reflected on the city wall. The insiders I know have nothing to do with London, and the void has an extremely rare attribute, so I was curious and sneaked in to take a look. As I said just now, I also mistakenly thought that there was research going on here that violated the rules. I'm willing to compensate you accordingly for the trespassing of your laboratory. Hearing the word compensation, Han Dong's eyes lit up, but his expression was still quite serious. Who are you people? At Pop's signal, the two of them took off their hoods, even if they were in human form. The other party's appearance also made Han Dong suddenly stunned. At the same time, Count, who was the associated consciousness, exploded on the spot. His speech became somewhat inarticulate, and he tried to use all kinds of exaggerated words together. Because the other party was about to introduce himself, Han Dong immediately cut off Count's voice transmission. It was too noisy. I'm really sorry. My name is Pop Mendar, and I come from the other side of the void. This is my friend, Hyde Darius. We agreed to come to London together to take a look and make some preparations in advance for next year's London game. Continuation. This Pop, who had simple books hanging from his body, had a galaxy brain. Because of the translucent skin and bone structure, outsiders could clearly see the internal structure. Dense, fine, and complicated blood vessels of stars were arranged in the body. In Han Dong's eyes, it was like a top-notch biological painting, and he couldn't find any flaws. However, the most shocking thing wasn't the blood vessels, but Pop's brain. Even though he tried his best to make himself anthropomorphic, the core of the brain structure still didn't change. While admiring such a brain, the swollen doctor at the side seemed to be stimulated. A large amount of fluid that symbolized excitement constantly overflowed from the sulcus of his brain, and his body also slightly twitched. If it wasn't installed in Pop's cranial cavity, people might not even think of it as brain tissue. A brain that was like a bright galaxy rotated at a uniform speed in the cranial cavity. It was so perfect. It was so beautiful. It was also so vast. The second origin, the Book of Wisdom, Pop Mindar. Dr. Swollen had heard of this name long ago in Stuart Manor, and the degree of its fame wasn't inferior to Grimm's. The second origin, after being shocked, Han Dong turned his gaze to another person. In the anthropomorphic state, he had a long face in the shape of a crescent moon. His wet dark blue hair hung down, and the gills were distributed on both sides of his cheeks. A murloc from the deep sea? Pop considered Han Dong's lack of knowledge about hybrid demons as a human and immediately added an introduction. Hyde Darius, who was awarded the title of Supreme Glory in the Origin game, 8th in the sequence. He's one of my few close friends. After saying that, Hyde, who was tall and had a long face, nodded at Han Dong and asked softly, "Why do you smell like seawater?" Seeing this, Han Dong immediately raised the back of his right hand and revealed the deep sea imprint. You're actually a deep sea messenger. Why haven't I heard of it before? I'm one of the most humble messengers, and I'm just a messenger in name. I rarely move around the sea. No wonder my lord specifically mentioned your name. So that's how it is. Hyde made a thoughtful expression. Obviously, as the 8th origin, he also came from the sea. In this way, they were related. Bop, who was at the side, also revealed a friendly smile. I wonder if Mr. Nicholas is free. As compensation, I'd like to treat you to something to eat, and maybe we can also discuss the problem of the void. Sure. Han Dong had heard about the origin body long ago. Although the revered eugenist had an integrated brain from the ancients and could be called an ancient library, in terms of brain power and strategy, it could only be ranked second. This Pop was the strongest brain in reality. Moreover, the other party came from the real void, and Han Dong had to seize this opportunity well. If you don't mind, bring this assistant along. This is the first time I've seen such a special hybrid demon. The special hybrid demon that Pop was referring to was Dr. Swollen. At the same time, in the central mansion of the Z City, Scarlet House, Han Dong's master bedroom, Meritus slept in the indoor swimming pool due to exhaustion. In her dream, she did something related to reproduction with her sweetheart and missed such an opportunity. Chapter 1170. To be called special by Bop, it had to be truly special. Moreover, until now, Bop was still unable to determine what kind of hybrid demon the Swollen Doctor belonged to. Perhaps he was a hybrid, but the brainwave strength Bop sensed from the Doctor's brain was far higher than that of an expert of the same level. Of course, since the misunderstanding had been resolved, Han Dong immediately deactivated the alarm as well. However, Father Evernight was very surprised when he heard that the two special guests had come to Han Dong. In particular, he showed abnormal attention to Bop. This young hybrid demon, known as the Book of Wisdom, was not only special as a second origin, but he also had a rather important meaning. The priest also specially passed a message to Han Dong. Although it is unlikely that a large-scale danger will appear in London, there is still a small possibility. However, there is also a small possibility. If something special happens, you must ensure Pop as safety and inform us of the situation as much as possible. As for the reason, the priest did not explain. Han Dong guessed that it might be related to Bop's characteristics, which was a characteristic of attracting trouble. Gorlin Hotel, as a landmark hotel in London, it was still preserved after the hybrid demons took over. At the same time, it was also one of the most high-end hotels in London. There was no need for Han Dong to show his identity as a bishop. Due to Bop's special identity, he could enjoy the best treatment in any city. He only needed to show a key-shaped waist tag and was immediately received by the hotel manager, who arranged the most high-end private room for them. We have preserved the recipes left behind by the original humans here. Do you want to try it? Not bad. Let's give it a try. Also, if there's nothing else, I don't want to disturb us. We will use short-distance teleportation to serve the dishes. During this time, we will use Seal of the Night-2 to seal off the private room in all directions. Very good. The following conversation would involve a lot of privacy issues. Therefore, when the dishes were all served, Bop gently snapped his fingers. The collision of his fingertips released sparkling particles that were similar to stardust. When the concentration of particles in the private room reached a certain threshold, whoosh, the private room was separated, forming a temporary independent space. This was the first time Han Dong had seen such a method, and his evaluation of Bop also rose sharply. This kind of spatial method was much more brilliant than setting up a barrier. Your human food tastes really good. No wonder Gray Sr. often lives in human cities in his incarnation. Naturally, there was a hidden meaning behind Bop's words at the dining table. Han Dong also replied politely, "If there's a chance, you can come to the holy city as a guest. I'll take you to eat authentic human cuisine." Good. However, they had to wait for some things to be settled before they could pass. As far as I know, they're already experts on the same level as the old Lower King in your human cities. If you treat me as an enemy, it will be very dangerous. Back to the topic. I'm curious as to how Nicholas formed his connection with Void. Even if you have Senior Gray's imitation, you must have the corresponding template provided by the Void creature, right? Han Dong didn't deny it. Just as you said, I obtained the ability through imitation. The template wasn't a hybrid demon, but a life form in the Destiny space. Oh, so that's how it is. I was wondering why I couldn't see any connection with the Void on your body. When the world calamity occurred, many Void creatures were sucked into different dimensions in order to fill the hole in the world membrane. It seems like Destiny also grasped the ability of Void. Speaking of which, was the hybrid demon the one that provided you with the template? Han Dong continued to talk about some of Dean Richards' characteristics. More or less, although it's a Destiny life form, it can already express tentacles, the Void, and can even summon higher life forms through sacrifice. It seems like Destiny's research on the hybrid demons has already reached a very deep level. This really isn't a very pleasant topic. Let's not talk about it any further. Since you used this method to indirectly come into contact with the Void, I hope that you can take some time to go to the Void in the future. It'll be of great help to you. I believe that Teacher will guide you. If I'm free, I can also lead the way for you. Thank you. After that, the topic changed. Bop looked at the doctor who was sitting beside Han Dong. His brain was constantly shrinking due to nervousness. What's the origin of this doctor? The characteristics of his brain are similar to that of a high-level hybrid demon, Migo, but the other characteristics don't match. From what I can sense, this doctor's brainwave strength is more than 10 times the average of those of the same level. Han Dong was the first to answer. I brought Dr. Bop out from the original Stewart Manor. The manor is a small title deed under a small title deed corresponding to a ghoul king. Is he a lord? No, he's the chief scientist under the original lord. He's responsible for coordinating with the mother to cultivate ghouls. After I took over the manor, the doctor followed me. That's strange. Such a low-level ghoul definitely can't give birth to such a brain-type hybrid demon. Even if he was infected with as clockwork virus, he shouldn't have reached such a level. If I'm not wrong, this doctor's advancement speed should be very fast, right? When he said this, Bop didn't care about his original identity at all. He took the initiative to stand up and shake hands with Dr. Bob. Chapter 1171. In a hybrid demon circle, gender, age, and species were not a hindrance to reproduction. In some mixed cities, it was even possible to see scenes that completely overturned their worldview. In comparison, Handong's intimacy with Dr. Swollen was normal. Since it was such a relationship, Bop could not force anything. Next, they talked about the incident of accidentally entering the manor. Bop did not put on airs as an origin body at all. He took the initiative to admit his mistake and signed a confidentiality agreement, guaranteeing that he and Hyde would not reveal the secret of the laboratory. Even Handong was a little surprised by this. After all, the origin bodies that Handong had seen were more or less unyielding or unreasonable, but this Bop seemed to know the rules very well. Moreover, Handong was more or less certain that this educated and reasonable feeling was not faked. It was just how he was. When they were signing the confidentiality agreement, Bop asked curiously, "If I'm not wrong, the ancient one in your laboratory should have been obtained from Eugenius, right? This guy is quite troublesome. You must have spent a lot of effort on him, right?" When the name Eugenius was mentioned, Hyde showed an unpleasant expression. It seemed that he had a lot of opinions about the extremely evil Eugenius. He even did not quite agree with Eugenius' identity. "Yes, I went to the South Pole about 4 months ago." Handong did not go into detail and only pointed out the word South Pole, as expected of the winner of the London game. Even if the two of us were not prepared, we would not dare to casually go to Hug's lair. I'm looking forward to your performance in the next game. I believe that you'll be able to complete the door opening by then. Speaking of the door opening, recently, Handong had been planning an important matter. Considering Bop's uniqueness, Handong tried to send out a different kind of invitation. "Are the two of you interested in the Destiny realm? Due to my special identity as a human, I relied on the Destiny system to grow. I should be more familiar with Destiny than any hybrid demon. Are you interested in joining me?" From Handong's point of view, in order to clear the Fate event, one had to possess a certain level of combat prowess as well as intelligence. If Pop could work together with him, not only would it greatly reduce the difficulty of the Fate event, it would also increase the chances of victory. Just like what Pop had said, Handong intended to complete the door opening before the next game. In other words, Handong wanted to obtain talent points X2 during the Fate event. Bop didn't directly answer Handong's invitation. Instead, he raised another question. "I heard that the winners of the London game were you and Green. You must have had some special cooperation with them, right? Otherwise, with Green's personality, he would never share the victory with others. If your relationship with Green is a friend, or even better, it will be very difficult for us to cooperate and be friends." Hearing such a response, Handong could only smile awkwardly. "What a pity. It's okay. This won't affect you from going to the void. It's just that we can't be friends. I'm sorry for making the conversation a little awkward. That's all for now. We still have to conduct a comprehensive survey of London. See you next time." All right. Handong didn't insist. Although Bop could be ranked first among the prime in terms of wisdom and brain. However, it was not necessary for Handong to do so. He had a similar companion among the humans, and to some extent, he might not be worse than Bop. When he thought of this, Demps, who was marching, suddenly sneezed. Because of the topic of Green, the conversation ended early. Bop gently waved his hand, and everyone immediately felt a sense of spatial transmission. The separate private room returned to the original Gorlin Hotel. It was like putting a separate block back into the main body. However, just when the spatial transmission ended, several people sitting at the table, including Dr. Swollen, smelled something wrong. At the same time, a large number of cracks appeared between the walls of the private room. Gurgle, gurgle, a black tar-like substance was constantly seeping out from the cracks in the wall. Feeling the state of the tar, it should be the ability of a certain dark inhabitant. This made Handong puzzled. This was the city of London. Who would be so bold as to attack the Prime? Not to mention, his identity was the Bishop of the Black Moon. Suddenly, Han Dong remembered the warning from the Evernight priest before they set off from the manor. If something special happens, you must ensure Bop's safety and inform us of the situation as much as possible. At this time, Bop said with a calm face, "Nicholas, hurry up and take the doctor out of here. These guys are here to cause trouble for me." Although our conversation gave this group time to gather manpower and set up the scene, hide and I can still deal with it. Han Dong asked, "With your void ability, it should be easy for you to leave, right? We still need to stay in London for a few more days. Trouble will naturally come looking for us. Even if it's fermented for a long time, the trouble will escalate. It's better to solve it directly here." Okay, since there was no way to become friends with the other party, Han Dong was too lazy to intervene in this troublesome matter. Moreover, the best way at present was to report the situation here to the priest. Han Dong hugged the swollen doctor beside him. As a wisp of starlight appeared between his calves, Han Dong had already left the private room and landed in the front yard of Gorlin Hotel. The originally clean and tidy front yard was now covered in black weeds that were several meters tall. The walls were also covered in black thorns. The front door was blocked by a black giant with a cloth bag over his head. While we were talking, the entire hotel has been remodeled. Speaking of which, this hotel is quite famous in London. Why are they doing this? Let's not talk about whether they can really defeat Bop and Hyde, the two prime. Once this matter is exposed, all the mantis demons here will be executed, right? Just as Han Dong was feeling puzzled, the swollen doctor beside him gave the answer. "Overlord, this is considered normal. Second prime, Bop's entire body is a treasure. His body can be used as a secret key to the void and can be used to obtain rare void abilities. As for his head, it was the brain that resembled the galaxy that we saw, and it could be transferred to another location. That is to say, once Bop is killed, one can obtain his strongest brain. The most exaggerated thing is that this information came from Bop's teacher, the Supreme Master of the Void, and he allowed people of the same rank to attack Bop, allowing others to covet and seize Bop's body. That is to say, what happened here will not be held accountable. This method was more like a trial for Bop. Not many mantis demons could resist such a temptation." "I see. That is to say, I also have a chance?" "That's right. However, since Bop became a mantis demon, he began to travel the world. He encountered too many dangerous situations, but he grew up without any harm. Sir, you should be able to understand the reason behind this, right?" "Ha, doctor, don't be nervous. I'm just joking. If you want to kill this guy, the difficulty is probably not much lower than killing Grimm." "Interesting. Let's stay and watch the show. Since there is such a setting, this guy is definitely not as educated and reasonable as he looks. Once the battle starts, I'm afraid he will become a different person." Chapter 1172. When Han Dong was in the front yard of the Gorlin Hotel for a long time, there was an old man with a black candle on his shoulder and his body wrapped in a cloak that floated over. Drip, 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 black tar kept dripping out of this person's body. "I've long heard of the name of the Black Moon Bishop, but this is my first time seeing you. I never thought that you would be this young. I am the current director of the Gorlin Hotel, Fersen Gorlin." After saying this, a hand covered in tar came out of his sleeve. Han Dong didn't hesitate at all as he shook hands with the other side. With this chance of contact, he evaluated Fersen's level. Atavism was also divided into deep and shallow. For example, Count was in a shallow position. As for Meritus, who had already reached atavism, and after completing a destiny event with Han Dong and observing the wall in the stone temple, she had already reached medium deep. The director of the hotel in front of him, Fersen Gorlin, had already reached the deep level. If he went any further, he would be creating a myth. However, he was also very old, at least several hundred years old. Fersen had already passed the best time to create a myth, and the oldham couldn't break through himself to reach a myth. No wonder he gave up the hotel business and bet everything on Pop. Han Dong could understand the other side's thoughts. This was similar to the old professors in his school. They had reached a giant bottleneck in their field of study and it was impossible for them to break through in their lifetime. When an opportunity came, they would grab it even if the price was death. Fersen asked in a friendly voice, "Does Sir Bishop also want to get involved?" Han Dong quickly waved his hand. "No, I just want to stay and take a look." "All right, being able to share this moment with Sir Bishop is also my honor." I asked her to step back. "I will start a very dangerous ceremony." All right. Because of the Evernight priest's orders, Han Dong needed to report the special situation that happened at the Gorlin Hotel. After reporting the information to the nearby church, Han Dong immediately rushed back to the hotel and used this chance to observe the strength of the origin power, especially the ability related to Bop. Han Dong really wanted to know what kind of attack Bop would use. Han Dong's void ability could only be used for teleportation and movement. Just as Han Dong jumped onto the outer wall of the hotel with the swollen doctor and sat down. The front and backyard of the hotel had been completely covered by the black tar. Even the building itself of the entire hotel was slowly dissolving into tar. A large formation made of bones was buried in the depths of the tar. Yes, had this hotel been prepared a long time ago. That's right. With London as the center of the incident, the boss must have considered the possibility that the second origin would participate in the game. Such a scene aroused great interest in Han Dong. Sensing the array formation before him, Han Dong himself could sense danger. At this moment, Han Dong suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. It came from the talent tree. He realized that Count's consciousness was actually kicking the talent tree. Only then did Han Dong remember that he had cut off Count's telepathic communication and hurriedly connected. "You actually dared to cut off this Count's telepathic communication. Do you still want this Count's assistance? Bop has a special brain structure, and because of my relationship with Grimm, he and I may become enemies. In the case of the manor's secret being exposed, Count, it is necessary to hide the fact that you are my second consciousness. This trump card of yours may become a sharp weapon against Bop." Han Dong was talking nonsense with a straight face. He blocked the Count because the latter was too noisy. But such an explanation made Count very excited, especially when it was called a trump card. "Trump card? Cough, cough. This Count reluctantly forgives you. I want to take a closer look at the scene before me. Hurry up and share your vision with me." This old bastard actually dared to use such a heavy hand on two origin bodies. Sure enough, rumor has it that the Mantis demons trapped in atavism for many years will gradually fall into madness because of their excessive desire for the things behind the door. Yes, after saying this, from the end of his right arm, a large eyeball grew out with the G-virus effect, allowing Count to see it alone. Han Dong also tried to discuss the current situation with Count. Chairman Fersen has already reached a deeper level of atavism, and with his long-term preparations and geographical advantage, he should be able to threaten the two origin bodies, right? Count, what do you think? Threaten? Are you a fool? If you change the two in front of you to Grimm and Hope, do you think it will be a threat? What are origin bodies? They can be called monsters even among the Mantis demons. Moreover, we won't be able to see Bop's performance. Just this, hide Darius, is enough. Han Dong didn't say anything else as he seriously watched the battle that was about to erupt. And Chairman Fersen was still holding an ancient dark scroll. He was currently chanting the words on the scroll, and the array around the hotel area was quickly activated by the words. At this time, there was an ethereal voice that came from the hotel. What you're chanting should be a dark secret text from the ancient times, right? The scroll in your hand seems to have quite the collection value. The voice that came from Bop was very relaxed. This also made Fersen speak faster and finish chanting as quickly as possible. Black focus, he didn't care about the staff holding back the two origin bodies and directly activated black magic. Or perhaps these staff were part of the array. The moment the array was activated, the entire hotel turned into a black tar that could easily melt the body and soul as it kept shrinking. The tar flowing around the hotel also began to flow inwards at the same time. There was a black focus in the center of the array that kept sucking the tar into the center, melting it at an even higher temperature. The matter that was sucked into the tar would also experience this process. After a few minutes, the area that the Gorlin Hotel occupied had already been flattened and only the walls remained. In the center, there were two black wax figures. The figures corresponded to Hyde and Bop. Normally speaking, the living beings that were sucked into the black focus should have already been dissolved and their souls scattered into the tar. But Director Furson felt something, and his body was covered in tar from nervousness. At the same time, 3 layers of thick tar walls rose up, trying to block something. So, there was a line of water that came out of the wax figure corresponding to Hyde. It instantly pierced through the thick tar wall and hit Furson's right arm. Pa! His right arm was like a balloon filled with water, exploding on the spot. This line of water continued to fly. After it pierced through the wall Han Dong was sitting on, it even pierced through 5 buildings in London before turning into a normal liquid that splashed onto the ground. Following that, the wax figure shattered. A Murloc arm covered in 5 colored fish scales, giant form, quickly reached out, and in a state of immunity to magic, it ignored the tar and directly grabbed Furson, who had caused all this. This claw was filled with anger. Why didn't Hyde Darius appear from the wax figure? It was because his special body had been injured in the process of refining the tar. As a supreme, glorious being, he was incomparably angry at being injured. When he was about to make a killing move, a strand of starlight suddenly appeared and separated the Murloc arm from Furson. Because the cloak had melted in the tar, Bop appeared in front of Furson in a perfect starlight body. He softly took the black book in his hand and turned it into a normal page, putting it away in the book collection on his body. I'll take this ancient page. It's a pity, because the second half of the chant was too rushed. It affected the overall effect and stability of the technique, especially for this kind of large-scale refining ceremony. Because of the instability of the contraction, it caused the heat inside to be uneven and the effect was greatly reduced. Otherwise, we might really end up in a disadvantageous position. Keep working hard. Bob patted Director Furson's shoulder with a friendly look before saying in a soft voice, Hyde, let's go. Huh? The wax figure exploded. A terrifying Murloc fell beside Bob, but it still stopped its killing intent and left the Gorlin Hotel area. Chapter 1173. Han Dong, who had participated in the battle as a spectator, was stunned. He stared at the stone wall that had been pierced by the waterline. Following the trajectory of the waterline, his mystic eye was able to track several buildings behind it. More importantly, there was no trace of mana left in the holes pierced by the waterline. This meant that the waterline that Hyde Darius shot out wasn't driven by magic energy, it was just a waterline. High pressure. The waterline that was shot out was filled with an indescribable high pressure. When it passed through a living being, part of the high pressure would seep into the body and cause an explosion. When it passed through Chairman Furson's right arm, it caused his entire right arm to explode. At the same time, because his body was injured, Hyde revealed a part of his body in his anger. A giant arm covered in fantasy fish scales grabbed at his target. The main point wasn't the strength of the arm. After all, in terms of strength, there was an even more terrifying existence among the origin substances. The key was the fantasy fish scales. Han Dong had never seen this kind of fish scale before. He could feel a kind of magic negation from it. It was a kind of fish scale that was completely immune to magic, ignoring the corrosion of the tar as it charged at Chairman Furson. If it wasn't for Pope stopping it, Furson would have been killed. Hyde's fish scales might even be immune to my death magic. It seems like although there's a ranking among the origin substances, other than an abnormal expert like Green, there isn't much of a difference in strength between the other people. Moreover, the origin substance game isn't just ranked based on strength. There are also other factors. For example, if someone's luck isn't good enough and meets Green ahead of time, they might be eliminated ahead of time. Thinking of this, Han Dong was even more interested in the 10 origin substances. When a London game opens and the 10 origin substances are all here, I wonder what kind of scene it will be. I also have to complete the door opening. Otherwise, if my level isn't high enough, No matter how much I rely on my brain or anomalies, it will be hard for me to play a role in this kind of large-scale battle. Since I can't work with Pope, I can only find someone else. Han Dong was still sitting on the wall of the Gorlin Hotel. Right now, Pope and Hyde, who had perfectly taken care of the trouble, came out of the hotel and waved goodbye to Han Dong sitting on the wall. Han Dong replied with a smile and continued to ponder about the Destiny realm and the recruitment of manpower. Suddenly, a light flashed through his mind. Han Dong abruptly turned his head to look at the swollen doctor beside him. She even widened her eyes and looked at the doctor from top to bottom. If Han Dong really wanted to do something, as a subordinate, he naturally had to satisfy his lord's needs. "You're right. Doctor, aren't you doing well? Why do I have to think about getting others to join us? Recently, I've been too focused on the construction of the sub-city, causing my thinking to be a bit rigid. Since your body is assembled, your brain is the main body. If I give you a suitable human body, it should be able to be recognized by the Destiny realm. Also, Doctor, you have the atavism body, so teaming up with me won't increase the difficulty of the matter. Whether or not he could obtain double talent points had nothing to do with the difficulty of the event. It mainly depended on the hidden mission or some kind of achievement that far exceeded the main storyline. Let's go back to the manor first. To the Destiny space? What about the manor? Although the doctor wanted to go to the Destiny world to take a look, but the sub-city adjacent to London had just been established. Especially the comprehensive reconstruction and expansion of the underground laboratory. The doctor had spent a lot of effort. It could be said that he treated the laboratory like a child and was very reluctant to part with it. Moreover, the introduction of the Ancient Ones also allowed the doctor to enter a new field of science and technology. During this time, the doctor even slept and woke up with the Ancient Ones. Even lying on the bed, they had a kind of brain communication. The expansion of the manor has entered the final stage, so we don't need to worry too much. For the time being, Professor West will be in charge of the laboratory, and the overall management of the manor will be done by Meritus. She used to hold a medium title deed, so it won't be a problem for her to manage it. When the time comes, I'll ask the priest to help me keep an eye on it, so there won't be a problem. In the previous trip to Prometheus, he was forced by the Bufo to form a team with the high-level Meritus. He had no choice. Although the ending was good and the rewards were great, he only received 1 talent point. This time, Han Dong had to grab this opportunity and touch the door. Moreover, for the doctor who had never been to the Destiny space, this was also a kind of opportunity. Han Dong still named the sub-city Stuart Manor after it was attached to London. He kept the Crowman's Castle and the Scarlet Mansion as the central building. The castle was more like a high-level meeting room for the hybrid demons, while the mansion was Han Dong's private villa. After explaining a series of things, Han Dong walked out of the mansion's main door, his body covered in water. At the same time, Miss Mary was leaning on the balcony. Her wet curly hair was draped in front of her. Her attractive humanoid body was covered in a wet and slightly transparent white shirt. Her wet and fleshy long legs were completely exposed. Currently, he was waving goodbye to Han Dong with a smile on his face. "Be careful. You have to come back alive. If you die, I'll go back to Toad City. I won't help you clean up your mess." "Don't worry, I won't die." Since the doctor was still assembling his body, Han Dong used his free time to slowly walk on the manor's stone path, calming his heart and feeling the hard work he had put in these few months. With the arrival of the Ancient Ones, it can smoothly introduce hybrid demon technology and even some ancient technology. There will definitely be a huge breakthrough in the improvement of the ghouls. The only thing I need to think about now is open the door. The choice of Destiny events is extremely important. I don't know if there are any events that can give me 2 talent points with a 100% chance. I can go to the club or the Black Tower to ask about this. Han Dong walked to the exit of the town. The doctor had also completed the simple assembly of a human body and came out from the nearest underground exit. "Sir, is this body really okay?" The doctor's body looked very thin and weak. This was because the source of the body was extracted from Han Dong's human cells, obtained through pure cell proliferation technology, without any hybrid demon attributes. In other words, This body was equivalent to the body of Warren Nicholas when Han Dong first arrived in the Holy City. The main purpose of this body is to let you be recognized by destiny. Once we successfully enter, I'll find a better body for you inside. Okay, Big Ben, the main church of the Church of Evernight. With Han Dong's identity, he easily came to the door of destiny, hidden in the deepest part. Doctor, go up and try. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to the manor and do some testing. Okay. The doctor carefully reached his right hand into the door, and with a ripple on the surface, he smoothly reached in. You're indeed special. No wonder the second origin substance was interested in you. Maybe Bop also saw this point and wanted to use your brain to enter the realm of destiny. Han Dong smiled, hugged the doctor, and stepped in. The Black Vortex mark has been recognized. You will be sent to the Black Tower Transfer Station. You will receive 48 hours of stay. Chapter 1174. The Black Tower only allowed Black Whirlpool identifiers to enter. Although Professor Swollen entered the Gate of Destiny with Han Dong as a team, only Han Dong came to the Black Tower. When Han Dong finished his activities in the Black Tower, he would naturally meet with Professor Swollen. Due to the difference in the flow of time, Han Dong stayed in the Black Tower for 48 hours, but for Professor Swollen, it was only a few seconds. The first thing he did when he arrived at the Black Tower, as someone who already belonged to an organization, Han Dong naturally went to the Fight Club. As for the matter of fighting, there would also be a few matches. Furthermore, he had promised the Count that he would try out the feeling of fighting in order to improve the purity of his blood. However, before the fight, Han Dong still needed to inquire about an important matter. The members of the Fight Club, except for Han Dong, basically all of them had reached the gate of opening. Regarding the issue of talent points, they naturally knew more than Han Dong. Among them, the Headless Brother, whose level was comparable to the Old King, might be able to provide some pertinent information. When Han Dong found Headless, he was in the inpatient department's VIP ward. Headless, who was full of syringes, was kept in a completely sterile incubator and could not move. Usually, no one was allowed to visit him, but Han Dong's visit was approved by Headless. Headless Brother, you're too miserable, aren't you? Why do I feel that there is not a single part of your body that is intact? It seems that the injuries on your body are connected to your soul, and they have all been torn apart. Han Dong found it hard to imagine who could beat up Headless, who was comparable to the Old King, to such a state. Headless' voice directly transmitted into Han Dong's mind. What can I do? There is a pervert in the club who wants to find someone for a special fight. It's good enough that you can talk now. What's the matter? I want to ask about the issue of talent points. For people on my level, the basic reward for clearing fate events is usually a talent point. Unless I meet a certain hidden condition of extremely high difficulty, there is a high chance that I won't be able to obtain an additional talent point. Is there any way to guarantee these 2 points? Headless immediately saw through Han Dong's thoughts. Are you planning to reach the level of open door in one go? Is there anything urgent you need to deal with? Yes. In another year, our world will face a large-scale invasion. I must complete the door opening before then. No wonder you're in such a hurry. However, with your potential and strength, opening the door in advance is not a bad thing. There's indeed a more stable way to ensure that you can obtain talent points X2 in one go. But neither I nor the club advocate it, because the risk is too high and uncontrollable. It can easily lead to death. What do you mean? Big Brother Headless, can you explain in detail? You also know that there are countless worlds managed by the Black Tower. Not every world value is above the stable value to be able to formulate a standard fate event. If it can be made into a fate event, it means that everything has been set. It can allow the participants to obtain stable experience in the world. The corresponding level of the event and related variables will not exceed the maximum tolerance of the participants. The reward is naturally based on a fixed foundation, and some commission is based on performance. However, there are also many worlds that cannot be made into a fate event. The world itself is in a chaotic an uncontrollable state. The stable value is below the baseline. These worlds may even be out of the Black Tower's control. For such an uncontrollable world, someone must go and remove the unstable factors. Out of control, Han Dong immediately reacted. However, there are also differences between out of control. Some out of control will not cause too much harm to the current world, but one of their parameters will become unstable. Some out of control exist to corrode the world. They can touch the foundation of the world, causing it to deviate from the Black Tower's control and even completely cut off the connection. Participants who can come to the Black Tower have naturally dealt with out-of-control events in the past. Have you received any recruitment from the Black Tower? Han Dong quickly took out his intern certificate. This is enough. You can apply to the Black Tower to capture out of control and go to the unstable world as an intern to carry out the capture mission. Due to the instability caused by out of control and the uncontrollable problem of the world, the Black Tower will give you more rewards, one of which is talent points x2. But as I said, this kind of capture out of control mission is extremely difficult, and there are a lot of variables. The mortality rate is frighteningly high. This is also the reason why the Black Tower recruits outside, because their people will also frequently die in the process of repairing the world. The club does not encourage it, but if you're in such a hurry, you can give it a try. Brother Headless, do you trust me that much? Our club has never accepted someone with such a low level like you. And just based on the fact that you can accept Ghost Arm, there's a probability that you can come back alive. I also hope that you can grow faster and reach the level that can help me. Okay. I can't talk anymore. I need a rest. My body is starting to hurt again. After saying that, Headless pressed the pager in his hand. A few nurses with syringes in the cranial cavity quickly came to the ward and gave Headless physical pain relief. Headless directly pointed out a new path for Han Dong. Thinking about it confidently, although Han Dong had a connection with the Black Tower, he was still far from using the convenience and authority here. Capture out of control, repair the world. Yes, fate events are the most common way of advancement. Like the invasion in London for the invaders, it is equivalent to carrying out an extremely difficult and uncontrollable mission. Once completed, those saint-level life forms will be rewarded handsomely. When Han Dong came in front of the counter of the Black Tower's office and proposed to carry out the mission of capturing out of control, immediately, a few staff members wearing whirlpool masks appeared with a series of equipment to conduct a comprehensive examination of Han Dong, confirming that Han Dong made the decision in a normal state of mind. Then, a masked man in a grotesque suit was responsible for the follow-up reception. Intern employee, Han Dong. Killed out of control, Black Tower fugitive. Pennywise in the Joker's Resurrection, Part 2. Captured out of control, Level 2. Black Jellyfish in Prometheus. You are qualified to accept capture missions, but there will be restrictions. The specific restrictions and missions you can accept will be explained to you later. Now, please follow me to the middle layer of the Black Tower. Capture missions will be selected and accepted there. Chapter 1175. The plaza and the surrounding area where Han Dong had been active in the Black Tower belonged to the bottom layer. The Fight Club's corresponding inpatient department was located outside the Black Tower. Any participant who came from outside the Black Tower would appear in the plaza on the bottom layer when they arrived at the Black Tower through normal means. Moreover, most of the transit station's activities, such as various transactions, mission handover, reward exchange, information inquiry, and organization activities, could be completed at the bottom layer. Large organizations like the Fight Club also had their main base at the bottom layer. Even Headless, a powerhouse equivalent to the previous king, could operate at the bottom layer. The Black Tower's level did not represent an individual strength. It only involved the Black Tower's authority. In most cases, there was no need to visit the middle layer. The middle layer did not have many free areas. 70% of the area was occupied by the Black Tower's organizations and companies. This area mainly dealt with international issues, such as the Black Tower's management and shelter issues. The famous Black Tower shelter was also located in the middle layer. This was also why the middle layer's management was extremely strict. For non-official employees, if they wanted to visit the middle layer, they had to have a valid reason, pass the relevant checks in the bottom layer, and be accompanied by a commissioner. Everyone who entered the middle layer would have their movements recorded in real time. Generally, Fate's participants who came to the middle layer were here for business. They would not stay for long. Ding dong. Welcome to the Black Tower's middle layer, Mr. Han Dong. As this is your first time here, please follow the guide throughout. Without permission, you are not allowed to explore the middle layer. For more details, please refer to the management measures for foreigners in the middle layer. Han Dong rode the fully enclosed elevator setup in the Black Tower's bottom-level office. The elevator continued to accelerate during its transportation, and for a time, it exceeded the speed limit. After ascending for several thousand meters, Han Dong finally received a notification about the middle layer. At the same time, he felt as if his body had crossed some kind of barrier. When the elevator's hatch opened, Shurfeng was greeted by a city of steel with a strong neon hue. The style of the city was completely different from the bottom-level office. Compared to the super large and free plaza at the bottom, this place was an extremely dense steel jungle. Whoosh, heavy rain poured down. The middle layer had an advanced real-time weather system built into it, and it was currently in a rainstorm. Mr. Han Dong, since you're not familiar with the rules of the Middle District, please follow me throughout the journey. You're not allowed to act alone. Once you violate the rules here, your identity and authority will be stripped, and you may even be executed. Okay, if I have any questions, can I ask you? Of course. You're using your life to serve Black Tower. I'll answer all your questions patiently. With that said, the masked man handed Han Dong a raincoat with a Black Tower coat of arms that could be recognized by the system and motioned for him to follow. The heavy rain suppressed the neon lights in the city. There were basically no idle people on the street like there were in the plaza at the bottom level. Most of the residents had a similar appearance. They were wearing semi-enclosed helmets. A large number of cables extended from the back of the helmet and connected to the spine on the back. At the same time, their spines were embedded with a metal box about the size of their bodies. The box was connected to the spine through some kind of high-end biological surgery. Destroying the box would also lead to their death. About 80% of the residents on the street were in this form. Who are they? Transporters are the bottom-level employees of the middle layer. The Black Tower institutions, enterprises, and organizations in the middle layer account for 70% of the entire Black Tower. Most of the time, it's impossible to transfer objects through information transmission, mechanical transportation, or spatial transmission. Many important substances must be personally transported by organisms to ensure their stability. Important substances? Are they substances extracted from different worlds? More or less. Depending on the situation, the worlds that have signed an agreement with the Black Tower will allow the Black Tower to extract some of the substances in their worlds for confidential research. The substances stored in the transporter's spine box may be worthless ordinary liquids or priceless world oddities. Of course, if a transporter is attacked, the attacker's information will be instantly uploaded, and the attacker will be wanted by the entire Black Tower. Therefore, this job is safe and stable. Even if it's very stable, I'm afraid most people aren't willing to do it, right? Those who could come to the Black Tower were all individuals with great strength, who would be willing to deliver goods here. At the very least, Han Dong wouldn't waste his time on such a task. That's right. The participants who participate in the delivery often owe a large sum of money to the Black Tower for some reason. Moreover, the Black Tower's evaluation agency determines that they are in a state where it is difficult to return the money. Of course, there are also some transporters who are not participants. They were born in the Black Tower, but they are cowardly and unwilling to deal with death. So, they became transporters. MHM, except for the transporters. Most of the individuals on the street had the same purpose as Han Dong. They had come to the middle layer to do something. Each of them hid in a cloak and didn't stop for a moment. Of course, there's also a small number of patrol officers who exuded a powerful aura. Apart from the issue of personnel, the buildings in the middle layer were also very interesting. Most of the buildings were directly under the Black Tower's management. Strict identity verification devices were installed at the main entrance, preventing non-internal employees from entering. However, Han Dong still discovered a top building that couldn't be ignored. Even though he was in a steel jungle surrounded by tall buildings, he could still see a black building that reached the sky. It was so tall that he couldn't even see the top of it. This building was far taller than the other buildings in the middle layer. It even felt like it was connected to the upper floors. That is, the Black Tower Shelter is a building used to control, research, and control rampagers. It is also the most important core building in the middle layer. All of the middle layer's laws are more or less related to the shelter. Its existence maintains the stability of the multidimensional universe to a large extent. This is the shelter. It's the place where Pennywise escaped through the dimensional storm back then. It was no wonder why Han Dong felt a sense of familiarity when he stared at this black building. However, he didn't pay too much attention to it. He would naturally have a chance to understand it in the future. Under the masked man's lead, half an hour later, they arrived at a relatively spacious intersection. In front of them stood a silver building that was only second in size to the shelter. It was hundreds of stories tall. The structure of the building was similar to that of silver blocks, built by stacking building blocks. Densely packed, exposed black tubes were also distributed outside the walls. These tubes served as the building's blood vessels, enabling energy transmission, magnetic field generation, and information transmission between different floors. Through holographic projection, the middle of the building reflected a huge ring-shaped text outside the building. World Search Agency, General Office. Chapter 1176. Intern Employee, Han Dong. Recent rating, excellent, participated in troublemaker incidents. 2. Both Class 2 troublemakers. Mental state and physical evaluation. Qualified, allowed to accept capture missions of the corresponding level. If a mission is accepted and completed successfully, the rating will be excellent, a total of 3 times, and you will become an official employee. Han Dong heard the above information report when he passed through the inspection channel at the main entrance. Yes, when I became an intern, the staff said that there would be 3 assessments at different times. If the assessment results are excellent, I can become an official employee. I didn't expect it to be so fast. If I can become an official employee, I will definitely be able to touch more secrets about the Black Tower. After passing through the inspection channel, Han Dong saw a hall of only 100 square meters. There were no reception staff or other visitors here. Only the masked man who was responsible for leading Han Dong was waiting here. The only facility in the hall was a white elevator. World Search uses a multidimensional structure. The building structure you just saw outside is used to build the silver cube of the building. Each piece corresponds to a space. The only way to pass through is the multidimensional elevator in front of you. Due to your level and your status as an intern, you can only go to the lower level, archive room. You can only accept capture missions for targets whose level is not higher than Class 3. Follow me. He boarded the elevator. As the masked man entered a series of difficult-to-recognize codes, the elevator immediately entered subspace transmission mode. The overall operation only took 3 seconds. When the elevator door reopened, what appeared in front of Han Dong was a large archive room similar to a double-story library. Here is a collection of mission information for Class 3 and below. There are many categories. You can check it out yourself first. Once you choose, you can give it to the person in charge here. If you have any questions during the selection process, you can ask me. I will follow you in a kind of dormant state. After that, the masked man's overall breath dropped by 90%. He was in a floating state, similar to the follow state in the game. He always kept a distance of 1 meter from Han Dong. Although Han Dong was curious about the nature of the masked man, he couldn't directly pry into it. The most important thing now was to quickly understand and confirm the capture mission. Han Dong randomly selected a portfolio on the price list, but he couldn't lift it at first try. So heavy. The seemingly thin document bag actually weighed more than 100 kilograms. Just a piece of paper? It's actually so heavy. This is a special hard paper for archives. Once the information is recorded on it, it cannot be changed, destroyed, or stored forever. Only the person who identified it could make limited changes to the information on it, and a record of each change would be permanently stored in it. It will provide information for the storage and research after capture. The masked man in hibernation actually answered the question directly. Han Dong was quite surprised. He immediately took out the hard paper inside the file. Rampager, Kataya, Bane level and type. Grade 2 conventional loss of control world number. M7277. The Art of the Devil introduction. Kataya. Bane's setting is a fate destroyer. His own luck value is in a normal state, but his existence will bring a fate destroyer effect to the surrounding creatures. In the most serious cases, it can cause a person's luck to drop below the minimum limit, resulting in death due to various coincidences. 2 months before this information was recorded, the Black Tower's investigators discovered that Kataya Bane had caused the death of a tame headmaster under abnormal circumstances due to a fate destroyer problem. Under the influence of chain effect, he was subsequently targeted by a number of tame headmasters. A large number of tame heads were used on Kataya Bane at the same time, causing his death. Subsequently, his corpse was used by a tame headmaster to revive him in the form of raising a ghost in an attempt to borrow his fate destroyer property. Who knew that the revived Kataya Bane would enter a special state where he could control the fate destroyer property and even absorb the luck of others. Requirements. Due to the fate destroyer property, he has a high research value. Regardless of the situation, killing Kataya Bane must be prohibited. He must be captured alive in a suppressed state. Basic reward. Talent point X1, Destiny points X500, epic grade materials of your choice. Capture the target alive is required. If the target is severely injured, the current reward will be deducted. The basic reward is indeed much richer than the regular Destiny events. Moreover, the target is very clear. There's no need to activate any quest lines. I just need to capture him. Unfortunately, there's still only 1 talent point. However, this seemingly simple description hides a hidden danger. Luck is a very important thing. If one's luck is bad, they might even choke to death while drinking water. Moreover, this file was recorded a year ago. If this guy can absorb luck limitlessly, he might have grown to a rather terrifying level. Han Dong took out another file. Rampager, Reggie Collins, Fingerbreaker, grade and type. Rank on Mental Disorder World serial number. S-112068. Brain Cell Invasion. Introduction. Reggie Collins is a psychopathic murderer who likes to collect the fingers of others. After he was captured, the police attempted to use a system to invade the brain to uncover his inner secrets and rescue the victims hidden by this person. During the brain invasion, 3 agents who specialize in brain invasion all suffered from abnormal brain death. The entire system was controlled by this person. According to the limits of the World Index, this person's brain is suspected to have fused with the system and is in an uncontrollable state. He can even radiate the system and force outsiders into the system through radio waves. Currently, it has caused more than 1,800 abnormal brain deaths. Requirements. Enter the target's world and actively connect to the brain cell system, controlled by Reggie Collins. After suppressing the target's mind, bring the person and the brain cell system back to the Black Tower. Killing is allowed under special circumstances, but the target must be brought back to the Black Tower within 5 minutes of death. Otherwise, all rewards will be revoked and a demerit will be recorded. Reward. Talent point X1, Destiny points X700. This isn't very cost-effective for a large number of people. After all, it's a system controlled by others. But it's still possible for me. Whether it's the faceless head or the Pharaoh's consciousness, they allow me to cheat in the other party's mental world. Unfortunately, there's still only 1 talent point as a reward. Following that, Han Dong flipped through a large number of documents. He discovered a very basic reward rule. But for those who lost control below rank 2, there was basically only one talent point as a reward. The highest number of documents that Han Dong could accept was rank 3, and there was an extremely small number of documents, so there might not be a talent point X2 reward. Han Dong stayed in the archive room for 24 hours. Just as he pulled out a document in the corner, the information on it immediately attracted his attention. Rampager, grade and type. Rank 3 infectious disorder reward. Talent point X2, destiny points X1000. Successfully eliminating the source of infection will allow you to apply for a legendary material. Chapter 1177. Rampager. There are many people who are deeply out of control. The source cannot be determined. Grade and type. Grade 3 contagious out of control world serial number. M0031. Grave. Note. M is the abbreviation for the middle level world middle. Is a world numbered 0031 and ranked lower than 100. It belongs to the self-created world of the Black Tower in the early stages of its creation. It is not an external world. Introduction. Due to the proposal of XXXXXX, information related to Tomb has been blocked. XXXXXX believes that the information currently collected about Tomb may mislead the interferers. Grave, which was affected by the Rampagers, had undergone a fundamental change. The information from the original world was not reliable. So far, 4 groups of employees, 3 groups of interns, and 1 group of official employees had been to the world of Tomb. Among them, all the interns had died, and only 1 official employee had escaped back to the Black Tower. Furthermore, he had been diagnosed as deeply infected and had been executed on the spot without any relevant information. After the technical department and medical research department analyzed the execution of the deceased, the level of loss of control was determined to be Class 3 infectious loss of control. Requirements. Due to the severe lack of information regarding this incident, the requirements are divided into the following 3 levels. Level 1. Investigate information related to Tomb and bring back the effective body tissues of the Rampagers and ensure that the individuals will not be infected. The amount of investigation information required is greater than 50%. Reward. Talent point X1, Destiny credit X400 may apply for 1 epic grade material. Level 2. On the basis of satisfying Level 1, the amount of information needed to be more than 80%. They had to find out the source of Tomb's loss of control and bring back evidence of the source. Reward. Talent points X2, Destiny points X600 may apply for an epic equipment. Level 3. Kill or capture the source of the loss of control and attempt to clean up the world. Cleanup rate greater than 80%. Reward. Talent points X2, Destiny credit X1000 may apply for a legendary grade material. This mission is so strange. The reason why Black Tower hid the world background was probably because they didn't have enough information. If they gave the information of the original world, it might mislead the employees and speed up their deaths. For this kind of world that has basically not been explored after losing control, the best way is to not give anything and let the employees explore on their own. But it's still very strange. It was completely different from the information he had read before. The explanation here made Han Dong very uncomfortable. A total of 4 batches of employees chose this mission. Almost all of them were wiped out. The only official employee who managed to escape was also judged to be infected and executed on the spot. Black Tower's medical technology was quite advanced. Even though the official employee who escaped did not complete the mission, he was valuable. He must have obtained some information about the world of Tomb. However, he was executed on the spot, which meant that Black Tower determined that his infection was untreatable and that there was a high risk of transmission. This mission was extremely difficult. However, as long as he reached the 2nd class requirement, he would be able to obtain talent points X2. This was the first time he had seen a segmented reward system. Let's compare them again. Han Dong continued to rummage through the archives for nearly 2 hours. Level 3 out-of-control incidents only accounted for 1 to 2% of the archives. On top of that, even rank 3 loss of control event might not necessarily reward 2 talent points. Another 2 hours passed, and Han Dong found another grade 3 out-of-control mission. The reward was talent points x2, and he compared it with the 2 mission. Although this case directly named the person who lost control and gave some information, the difficulty was also very high. The target existed in the major world that Han Dong had never come into contact with. The requirement was to capture the target alive. There's no such thing as a simple level 3 out-of-control event. In comparison, I'll choose the former. With my body's condition, I can at least resist the infection. Moreover, the second-class requirement does not require me to kill or capture the source of the loss of control alive. It only requires me to bring back a part of the organization. As long as I can determine the passage to escape back to the Black Tower in the Tomb World in advance, such as the phone in the Matrix, there's a high chance that I can escape with the characteristics of the Void. That's it. When Han Dong made this decision, his body could not help but shiver. However, this was Han Dong's only choice. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame himself for coming to the hybrid demon world in such a hurry. If he could die a few years earlier as a university professor, he would not have to be in such a hurry now. If I can't complete the door opening, it will be difficult to continue to display my strength in the London game. The Expeditionary Army will also arrive in London by then, and I must play the role of a bearing. Thinking of this, Han Dong came to the front desk with the Tomb World file. The person in charge here was also wearing a whirlpool mask. After monitoring the file and Han Dong's identity, he confirmed it 3 times in a row. The file has been submitted. Because the file you chose is special, you will be arranged to have a short conversation with a Black Tower executive before you leave. This executive is the person in charge of the M0001 M0100 worlds. The conversation will affect whether you can go to the M0031 world or not. Please come with me. Okay. From the back door of the archive room, he entered an absolutely sealed metal compartment. The floor was made of a white liquid, just enough to let Han Dong's entire calf sink into it. An executive in a white suit, in a human posture, and wearing a white whirlpool mask was already sitting at a small square table, waiting for Han Dong to take his seat. This white liquid should be released by him. I can't analyze its composition, but he should be able to read my fluctuations of interest. It's so powerful. This is the first time I've encountered an existence whose level I can't determine. However, I've seen such a scene before. At present, it was not as oppressive as when Han Dong met the old Grey King. Han Dong sat down calmly and maintained a smile throughout. A voice similar to an announcer's sounded directly in Han Dong's head. A member of the Fight Club. No wonder you don't have much fear of me. Not bad. Why did you choose this mission? I need to ensure that I get 2 talent points in one go. At the same time, I think this mission is more suitable for me. I once killed an infectious rampager, and I myself have infectious characteristics. Not a bad answer. I allow you to go, but before you leave, I have a few pieces of information to tell you. M0031 Tomb's current correlation with the Black Tower has dropped to 13%. Our control over it is almost ineffective, and we can only create a small number of entrances and exits. Entrances and exits are set as coffins, but due to the correlation, some coffins may not be able to become entrances and exits to the Black Tower. You need to check them yourself. At the same time, we can't guarantee your state when entering the world. We can only try our best to teleport you to a theoretically safe location. Due to the large number of uncertainties in this mission, when you escape back to the Black Tower with a legitimate reason, you won't be punished for not completing the mission. Han Dong nodded and asked curiously, "That's right. Since the correlation of this world is already so low, the Black Tower should have special means to deal with it, right? Why did they make it a mission and assign it to an employee?" The Black Tower stipulates that when the correlation of a world drops below 10%, they will send a task force to suppress it. If the suppression fails, the world will undergo spatial annihilation. You should be the last employee to carry out this mission, and in turn. And your ability is indeed different from the previous deceased. Perhaps you can achieve your goal or even obtain unexpected gains. I wish you all the best. Chapter 1178. The conversation ended. Han Dong received the approval of the executives and officially obtained the qualification to go to the M0031 world. As for the executive in the white suit, when he got up, all the white liquid was retracted into the suit and returned to the Black Tower, upper floor, through a unique elevator. The upper floor was a domain that outsiders could not reach at all, and not many people knew what the upper floor was made of. The executive in the white suit came to the round table conference as fast as he could. Gathered here were the people in charge of the same world as him, and the attendance rate was only 1/3. A short old man with a beard on a whirlpool mask said, "Is this why you delayed the annihilation of the M0031 world? It's completely meaningless to let an intern try to clear it." The man in the white suit asked, "You probably don't know the origin of this little guy, right? He became a member of the Fight Club without even opening the door, and he himself came from a world. Such an interesting guy took the initiative to submit the application. It's necessary to give him a chance to delay the annihilation, right? S01, a visitor from the hybrid demon world?" Some of the people in charge began to check Han Dong's information. "If that's the case, we can give it a try. But it's a pity if such an intermediary dies inside. He can't become an intermediary with his level. If he succeeds in such a trial, it can also establish his identity as an intermediary. Then we'll do as you say. The annihilation of the M0031 world will be delayed until this guy dies, escapes, or succeeds." The scene changed. Han Dong didn't directly go to the directional teleportation door. Instead, he used the remaining time to return to the lowest level of the Black Tower. It took Han Dong 30 hours to find the information. Since the difficulty of the mission was terrifyingly high, Han Dong had to face it in his best state. First, he found a high-class hotel to sleep for half a day. "As long as I continue to fight, the club will subsidize my stay. I have a faint feeling that the mission I'm about to face may require the use of purity. How about counter-range 5 fights for you?" "Huh? 5 fights? Didn't you say 1 or 2 fights when you came in? What are you going to do if I cripple your body?" "Don't worry. The club knows that I'm going to carry out a capture mission, so they'll definitely make sure that there's no problem with my body. The hospital will wait until my injuries are completely healed before letting me leave the hospital. How about this? I'll arrange 2 matches for you first. If you're good enough, you can continue. Come on, I want to see if purity is useful. Besides, this count is quite proficient in close combat, and us bloodline descendants are naturally inclined towards close combat." Half an hour after the count had said these words, Lucien had been waiting for the count. This included going to the club, asking for a fight, looking for an empty room, and fighting. In just half an hour, a group of nurses whose cranial cavities were filled with needles pushed out Han Dong, controlled by Count, whose entire body was twisted like a fried dough twist at the fastest speed, and quickly sent him to the treatment area. 2 days later, regained consciousness. What kind of monsters are these guys? How did they punch in that situation? You'll get used to it. Han Dong didn't give Count time to react at all. While taking over the body, he called the nurse next to him. "Please help me arrange another match on the day when my body is almost recovered." Count didn't say anything because he wanted to save face. 5th day, less than an hour after leaving the hospital, Han Dong, Count's consciousness, was pushed back to the ward again. Compared to the last time when he was twisted into a fried dough twist, this time, even the skin of his whole body was scraped off by the fierce wind of the fist. Even though his consciousness was already knocked out, his body automatically showed a curled-up state due to the pain. His whole body was like a red meatball, which showed how painful it was. When seventh day regained consciousness, his whole body was filled with needles. The pain continued to surge up like a tide, and there was no sign of it stopping. For a moment, Count almost collapsed, and a drop of blood flowed down from the corner of his eye. I can't fight anymore. I'm going to die. That guy doesn't have any morals. How can he fight like this? Count, didn't you notice? The bandaged monster in the second match was stronger, but you lasted longer. You can adapt to it again, and your purity is improving. How about this? During the mission, as long as you want to control your body, I'll give it to you. Count tacitly agreed without saying anything. In this way, under Han Dong's coaxing and cheating and throwing all kinds of conditions to Count, he finished a total of 5 matches. It was worth mentioning that Count lasted for 2 hours in the 5th match, and he was still fighting back and forth with others in the first half hour. 27th day. Under the almost abnormal recovery ability of the hospital, Han Dong was officially discharged from the hospital. Count's consciousness in his body was completely shut off, or maybe he was enlightened, so he didn't speak at all. What was unexpected was, after nearly a month of desperate fighting, it ended with a score of 0-5. Han Dong, who was hospitalized for 23 days, was named member with the most tragic ending of the month, and his member reputation level +1. At the same time, he was also rewarded with 500 points. The member reputation level would bring Han Dong more convenience, such as cross-dimensional assistance from the club. Everything is ready. Let's go. Similarly, the masked man led the way to the Black Tower's middle layer. In front of a building similar to a research institute, a holographic projection of the words directional transfer floated in front of the building. After submitting the mission documents, identification, and approval from the upper zone, Han Dong was allowed to go to M0031. After bypassing a series of passages, they arrived at a sealed space. A gate of destiny was fixed by various stabilizing devices, and the projection of M0031 surrounded the portal. Being an employee is indeed very convenient. After accepting a capture mission, I can be sent to the world I want to go to. The rewards are also very rich. It's just too easy to lose people. Without any hesitation, more than 20 days of fighting were all maintained by Count's consciousness. Han Dong had been resting all this time and entered in his best condition. However, the directional transfer, which should have been smooth, became very strange. Han Dong felt a sense of oppression that he had never felt before. It was as if the world he was about to enter was rejecting him, and this rejection was very strong. In the previous Fate events, the world was open to the Black Tower, and there was no such feeling at all. However, the world in front of him was only 13% connected. The entire world was sealed by a set of rules, and visitors were strictly restricted. Han Dong's consciousness was very strong, and he actually woke up during the transfer of the world. Something's wrong. This world isn't rejecting my consciousness, but it wants to get rid of my physical body. No, even if my physical body can't enter, I have to bring my head in. Otherwise, only death awaits. Han Dong made a crucial decision at the critical moment. Give up his physical body to save his head. There was a feeling of squeezing a funnel, and he finally squeezed his head in. After an unknown amount of time, when Han Dong woke up and opened his eyes, he appeared in an old coffin. The air was filled with the pungent smell of a corpse, and this corpse smell came from Han Dong's physical body. Chapter 1179. I lost my body right at the start. I'm afraid I can only retrieve it when I return to the Black Tower. Speaking of which, is this a world with only 13% of connections left? Isn't this a bit too much? If it wasn't for my willpower that woke me up halfway, I probably wouldn't even be able to squeeze my head out. Consider this a blessing in disguise. It's no wonder that most of the employees or interns who come here die. Speaking of which, the body this world prepared for me is actually not bad. Han Dong tried to move the body in the coffin. Although there was a clear feeling of stiffness, there were no problems with basic movements. Even if the adaptability provided by the Black Vortex torso was gone, Han Dong could still easily control it. The sensations brought by the body were frowny face stiffness, decay, sensory loss. Han Dong raised his arm in front of him. What he saw was a corpse's arm covered in livor mortis and missing flesh to the bone. The fingernail was about the thickness of 2 steel plates. It was sturdy and blackened, as if it could tear through a concrete wall. This body isn't that bad. It's even stronger than a normal person's body. It's very tough and powerful. It's barely a good start. Han Dong wasn't in a hurry to leave the coffin. Instead, he used the safe period in the coffin to check the situation of his head. The faceless head was connected normally. The 3 prisoners in the prison area weren't affected by the world's rejection. They were all moving around in their cells. The laboratory was also operating normally. All brain-related abilities could be used. However, there was an unexpected situation. Most of the Destiny equipment on his body was lost. Only the head is protected. Is the equipment also blocked outside the body? At this moment, Count, who had been beaten to the point of being autistic these days, suddenly sent a message. Look at your mouth. When Count said this, Han Dong indeed felt something stuck in his throat. However, as a corpse, he didn't feel anything and didn't need to breathe, so he didn't notice it. A skull pendant that emitted a red glow was dug out. As a symbiotic consciousness, Count also made a contribution at this crucial moment. While Han Dong was concentrating on preserving his brain, he quietly controlled his right arm and stuffed the infernal blood skull in his mouth, at least to ensure that such an epic equipment was brought over. Count, it seems that fighting is still very useful. This way, even if you lose your right arm, you can still use your system ability, Count. This incident is very dangerous. If you need anything, just call me. Yes, Han Dong thought to himself. It seems that Count's mentality has changed a lot after a month of crazy beatings. The pride embedded in his bones has basically been cut by the perverted guys in the club. If there's a chance, I'll let Count take over my body. Although he had spent a month alone in the Black Tower, Han Dong did not forget about another person, Dr. Swollen, who had entered the Destiny realm with him. The doctor did not have the Black Tower's authorization, so he skipped the Black Tower's transit station and came here. We need to find the doctor as soon as possible. At this moment, dang, there was a clear sound of impact, as if something hard was hitting the coffin lid. Han Dong pretended to be dead, and the tentacles hidden in his head were ready to attack. Ka! The coffin lid was pried open by a shovel, and then a withered hand grabbed the coffin lid and suddenly opened it. Just as Han Dong was about to launch an attack, he suddenly froze. Holding a shovel, he opened the coffin lid and stared at the guy in the coffin with wide eyes, exuding a very familiar aura. Lord, you're here. I've finally found you. Doctor, what did you get here? I arrived half an hour ago. I suddenly smelled your aura just now, and I finally found you. Han Dong thought. It seems that after I chose the file of tomb and got the approval of the higher-ups, the Black Tower directly sent the doctor over. The follow-up fighting took more than 20 days, but for the doctor, it was only half an hour. It was just as Han Dong thought. Only the doctor's brain squeezed over, and the entire brain was stuffed into the corpse's cranial cavity. Comparing the two, Han Dong's corpse probably corresponded to a middle-aged man in his 20s or 30s. Apart from being slightly rotten and exposing the bones, there were basically no major problems. Even the teeth were very good. The doctor's corpse corresponded to a middle-aged man in his 50s or 60s. It was severely bent, and even the spine was completely exposed. There was nothing in one eye socket, and even the doctor's brain could be seen through it. The other eye socket was stuffed with an eyeball that looked like it had been soaked in a pickle jar for a few months. Controlling the rather stiff body, he climbed out of the 2-meter-deep grave with the doctor. In front of him was a barren mountain covered in white fog. All he could see were graves, and the density was even more exaggerated than the mass grave. But this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was the air. Cough, cough, cough. He coughed violently. Han Dong, who climbed out of the coffin, felt like he was about to die as soon as he took a breath. It felt like he had inhaled iron shavings. and the iron shavings that were inhaled into his body were like living things that stimulated his throat, causing him to cough violently. The swollen doctor gently patted Han Dong's back and said softly, "My lord, you will get used to it soon. I was like this at first." The violent coughing went on for 2 minutes. It caused his throat to be completely torn apart, and a lot of holes appeared before he finally got used to the environment. In the grave world, the first thing to learn was to abandon breathing. The air here could cause the body to decay in an instant, and it belonged to the world's rules. The air here, Han Dong, who had gotten used to not breathing, immediately brought a can of air back to the lab for analysis. The report he got was indeed printed with danger warning. Prolonged inhalation would cause the soul to decay. In other words, if he wanted to move around in this world, he must be able to abandon breathing. This way, even the anomalies could not be released, and he could only use their abilities by imitating them. Prohibiting breathing? Why did they set such a difficult setting at the beginning? Cough, cough. Doctor, let's go down the mountain and have a look. Han Dong was still somewhat used to breathing. After all, this was the most basic physiological characteristic of a human. Fortunately, most of the air inhaled would flow out of the open neck. In addition, the body of the corpse would naturally not circulate to the brain. Okay, the bare mountain where the two of them were was only more than 200 meters high. Other than the tombs all over the mountain, there were not many special areas. However, there was one detail. About 1/3 of the tombs on the mountain were dug up, and the corpses buried in them were nowhere to be found. Moreover, the digging method was from the inside out. In other words, the corpses were dug out by themselves. As they walked down the mountain path, a village emitting a rotten smell came into sight. The style of the village stunned them. The seemingly dilapidated and backward brick houses were inlaid with some sophisticated metal devices and gear structures. Some 2-story houses were even inlaid with large steam engines and sophisticated chimney structures. At the same time, there was a large building similar to a factory in the center of the village. Steam technology? What a coincidence! If we put aside the steam technology, this village is a bit like the countryside of the motherland, right? Miss Chun-Li, yes. Chun-Li, who was born in the countryside, immediately responded. Han Dong used his magic eye to spy on the villagers and immediately made the decision to enter the village. Doctor, let's go. The reason why Han Dong brought the doctor into the village was because the villagers he saw had the same characteristics of the corpses, combined with a large number of tombs dug up on the mountain. Presumably, the people who made up this village were all corpses from the barren mountain. Sure enough, Han Dong and the doctor received a friendly reception as soon as they entered the village. Huang family's 4th master and 4th young master. You finally woke up. Welcome home. Han Dong was stunned by the setting of his character's identity. Dr. Swollen had become his father. You have been buried in the mountain for more than 200 years. Maybe you will be chosen. Chapter 1180. The area of the village was larger than Han Dong expected. The highly developed steam technology and the down-and-out village structure presented a sharp contrast. It was as if this technology was imported from the outside. The corpses corresponding Huang family seemed to have a relatively high status in the village. So much so that a man who claimed to be the village chief took the initiative to be a guide and briefly introduced the situation of the village. After all, the two hadn't come back for 200 years. The man was a corpse whose chin was completely replaced by a machine. His body was thin, even less than 3 meters, and he was holding a paper lantern in his hand. However, according to Han Dong's observation, this person's footsteps were very light, and he didn't leave any footprints on the village path. This kind of lightness also represented some characteristics of speed. In addition, Han Dong also found some details in the village. Except for a few corpses who were full of vitality like the man, the rest of the villagers showed a low and powerless image, similar to the image of foreign zombies. Even the most basic walk seemed to be soft and powerless. Master C, your back is really good. Obviously, it's the result of long-term deep burial. Your young master's nails are also good, almost half the thickness of the village chief's nails, and the color is unusually bright. As expected of the Huang family, in a few days there will be a dragon boat coming. You can try it. Maybe you will be selected. Selected? Han Dong looked puzzled. It seems that the young master's brain hasn't fully recovered. But it doesn't matter. You will naturally know when the time comes. The dragon boat is a big event, and the village chief will also go in person. Haha. When talking about this matter, the man's mechanical chin kept opening and closing, making a stiff laugh. After a while, a decaying ghost house appeared in front of them, and the word Huang could be clearly seen on the plaque in front of the door. There were only a few two-story houses with a front yard in the whole village. The village chief servant was also responsible and immediately brought a group of ordinary villagers to Master Huang as new servants. There were a total of 6 men and women, and some of them were missing arms, legs, or intestines. These corpses with incomplete bodies belong to the lowest level of village servants. They can be bought directly at the market in the center of the village. I will directly arrange it from Master Huang, so you don't have to run errands. They should be able to take care of the chores in your house. Fourth Master Huang, who was played by the doctor, immediately refused. Not for the time being. My son and I have just woken up, and we don't want to be disturbed by others for the time being. Let's stay here for a few days before we consider the matter of servants. You're right. I was thinking too much. Have a good rest. I won't disturb you. But there's one thing I hope you two can keep in mind. The village chief is recuperating, and it's not convenient for him to see anyone. If you have any questions, you can look for me directly. Don't disturb the village chief. All right, then I won't disturb your rest. After saying that, a burst of miasma spread out. The man with the paper lantern disappeared. However, this kind of camouflage couldn't escape Han Dong's eyes. The miasma came from the servant's corpse and was released through the swelling on the surface of the body. The moment the miasma enveloped his body, he quickly jumped and landed on a tile-roofed house more than 10 meters away. There's something wrong with this person. He even wants to plant spies around us. On the surface, he pretends to be very enthusiastic, but in reality, he has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. What do you think, doctor? The doctor habitually put his finger into his ear and scratched his brain. Well, maybe it's related to the upcoming dragon boat. Lord, why don't you rest here and I'll go collect information? According to what that guy said just now, my status in the village should be relatively high. I should be able to get some information. Dr. Swollen was completely a loyal worker in front of Han Dong. He always wanted to work for his boss. Don't worry. Since this group of people has ideas about us, it's better to stay together. Maybe there's a lot of information and secrets hidden in the Huang mansion. Let's stay here first. Okay. The man who was responsible for leading the way had turned back in the first place. There was a sickly smile on his rotten face. They returned to the village chief's mansion through a secret back door. This was also the only 3-story building in the village. It had a mountain-style roof made of metal tiles and a giant chimney. It looked like a mansion, but also like a private workshop. When the man bypassed the winding passages and reached the bottom floor, a gust of cold wind suddenly blew and extinguished the lantern in his hand. In front of him was a square, secret room. There was a metal mechanism in the corner. 4 iron chains suspended a black coffin in the air. The air was filled with a fishy smell, as if a sumptuous feast had just been held here. Village Chief, Master Huang, and his son actually came back to life at this time. It's really incredible. I just received them at the village entrance. Master Huang's spine is quite exquisite. I have never seen such a transparent and pale exposed spine. The whole body also exudes a strong corpse smell. His son's fingernails are also quite thick and black. However, they seem to be a little wary of me. They didn't even ask for the servants I arranged in advance. Do you need to do it tonight? Trash. A roar came out. With just a roar, the man was sent flying, crashing heavily into the wall and trembling. Who asked you to arrange servants? Master Huang was very cunning when he was alive. Don't you know what the village is like now? The villager's corpse element has been basically squeezed dry by me. Even if this cunning old man hasn't returned to the village for a long time, he must have noticed something unusual. Quickly monitor the Huang family for me and make sure they stay in the house. Yes, yes. However, the information you brought back is not bad. If Master Huang can fill in the last gap for me, I can get the boat ticket. This is my last chance, and also your last chance. After I digest the remaining corpse element in my body, I will go find the father and son tonight. Quickly monitor them. Yes. The man scrambled away. His expression was incomparably panicked. Lying in the black coffin, the village chief's whole body was covered with strange white hair. With the absorption of some substance, the hair gradually retracted into the body. Two fangs that were emitting black gas hung at the corner of his mouth. The heavens are really helping me. Seeing that there is not much corpse element left for me to absorb, I didn't expect Master Huang to wake up at this time. The Huang family is the first batch. The corpse energy that has been accumulating for 200 years is naturally different. It's about time. I will go see this old friend later. Boom! The coffin lid that weighed 100 pounds directly exploded with a burst of black gas. The 2-meter-tall corpse fell to the ground in an upright manner with both arms raised horizontally. This image was simply like a zombie in the movies. Chapter 1181. Although in the corresponding world of Tomb, the air was highly lethal. But here, it maintained a normal day and night cycle. The time was slightly longer than on Earth, about 30 hours. Han Dong and the doctor woke up at night, which was also the time when the villagers were active. When the day came, not a single villager could be seen in the village. All of them were sleeping in their own homes. The better-off families would prepare a coffin for themselves to use as a bed. At the same time, when the day came, Han Dong also felt weak and powerless. Clearly, it was the effect of the corpse. In addition, after a night of searching, they still found something. At the same time, they also had a certain understanding of the village. Han Dong and the doctor found a very suspicious basement in the depths of the Huang family's mansion that had been abandoned for 200 years. The basement was equipped with a precision machine driven by steam power, similar to a combination of a mill and a distiller. A very small amount of residual refining product corpse oil was found inside the machine. Combined with the style of the basement and the hanging ropes on both sides, it was possible to guess that this was the secret of the Huang family, the refining of corpses. Some organization provided the village with steam machines and corpse oil refining technology. The reason why we can be resurrected, or the reason why the villagers can be resurrected, should be closely related to this technology. Someone deliberately turned the village of living people into a village of corpses, giving these villagers irresistible conditions or requirements. Perhaps the upcoming Dragon Boat corresponds to the mysterious organization that carries the steam and zombie transformation technology. While Han Dong was analyzing the incident, the doctor was already analyzing the structure of the device and found an extremely ingenious design inside. A very subtle material conversion and purification device. Maybe it can be used in a manner. Doctor, it is difficult to use it. The Destiny Realm's control of technology is very strict, or it could be said that technology in different worlds is not interconnected. Due to the difference in entropy between the universes, the material movement in different worlds is different. If the material reaction in our world is brought here, the reaction speed and the final reactant may be different. If you want to bring it over, you have to use a lot of points to correct it. Now, it seems that there is no need to transfer the technology here, unless this technology can create a very powerful corpse. Oh, so it's like this. The doctor touched his head to show that he understood. Just as the two of them were about to leave the basement and take a break, a voice suddenly rang out. A sense of danger came from above their heads, and the two of them simultaneously retreated in different directions. Boom! The ceiling above his head suddenly shattered. A powerful aura instantly covered the entire basement, and even caused Han Dong and the doctor's corpses to creak under the pressure. It was as if their bodies were carrying heavy metal. Domain. Experts have arrived so quickly. Have my identity been exposed? Han Dong was already prepared to escape. As he released his domain in a small area, he immediately eliminated all of the weight on his body. Right now, they had no idea what was going on in this world. If they were to fight here, they might attract even more trouble. However, the voice from the smoke quickly dispelled Han Dong's concerns. Fourth Master Huang and your young master, their skills are really not bad, as expected of geniuses who were buried for 200 years before awakening. Your Huang family owed me a debt when you were alive. Now that 200 years have passed, the interest has increased a lot. Now, let me settle it with you. When all the dust had settled, what was exposed in front of him was an old corpse that was more than 2 meters tall. On the arms that were stretched forward, there were long black fingernails that were as long as the fingers. The whole body emitted a thick aura of a domain. Village chief, after being buried for more than 200 years, I don't even recognize you? Your Huang family owed me a lot of debts at that time. Now, I will use your body to repay it. Right now, I urgently need the corpse essence in your body. After more than 200 years of accumulation, it should be quite delicious. While staring at the doctor's exposed spine, the village chief was extremely excited. However, the big meal should be left for last. His fierce gaze locked onto the young master. His calf bent and jumped slightly. In an instant, he approached the young master with a heavy pressure. The pitch-black sharp teeth hanging at the corner of his mouth were completely exposed. He was ready to suck this appetizer. However, just as the village chief was about to capture the fourth master, a ray of red light flashed in front of his eyes. The rapid change made him unable to see it clearly. It was as if the young master had turned into a big red dog. Immediately after, ding, 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 there was an unusually loud sound of metal colliding from the side, and there was even a flame. The village chief's eyes widened. Not only did he fail to capture the target, but a large piece of his left arm was bitten off. Such a heavy piece of corpse meat that was comparable to metal was in the mouth of a terrifying blood dog, and the blood dog grew on the surface of the right arm of the fourth master. What is this? The village chief stared at the strange blood dog and couldn't help but tilt his head. He had never seen such an ability. Similarly, Han Dong was also surprised and wanted to ask what was going on. Just now, he took advantage of the gap between the attack of the village chief and the underworld blood pendant to create a blood dog on his right arm, preparing to bite off the entire right half of the village chief's body. However, when the dog teeth bit the surface of the village chief's body, it felt like biting on a metal surface. It was unbelievably hard, biting off a piece of the village chief's flesh at the same time. 3 of the dog teeth were broken. This hardness, incredible. At the same time, failing to capture the target, the village chief who was injured let out a roar. Thick black gas spread out from the surface of his body, increasing the pressure. You can actually hurt me. My body was prepared for the upcoming dragon boat. Unforgivable. His body exerted force. This time, he jumped toward Han Dong at an even faster speed. He no longer used his teeth, but instead used his arms to attack directly. Even if his body was torn apart, he could still bring it back and use the device to extract corpse oil. Your body sank into heavy metal, and you could still be so fast. Han Dong quickly opened the demon eye between his eyebrows, see-through. Just as he was about to be penetrated by the arms, he decisively dodged to the side. Boom! The violent collision shook the entire building of the Huang mansion. Because Han Dong dodged in time, the village chief directly crashed into the wall. His arms completely penetrated the stone wall. The wall was penetrated by the black nails, and corpse energy continued to leak out. The destructive power was astonishing. At this time, Han Dong came to a conclusion. It seems that corpse can cultivate and grow in this world. Moreover, the power obtained is extraordinarily strong. Miss Chenli, get ready. With your ability, you should be able to directly break through the defense. Okay. As a wave of resentment emerged from Han Dong's body, his hair grew. A kitchen knife made of black hair was already in his right hand. The village chief also pulled out his arms from the wall and continued to jump toward Han Dong. When the two were about to collide, the village chief suddenly stopped when he landed, and his pupils contracted. "Doctor, not bad." He. Behind the village chief stood the swollen doctor with a silly smile. A brain tentacle protruded from the doctor's mouth and penetrated the back of the village chief's head, completely crushing his brain. Boom! When the village chief's body fell, it was as if several tons of iron had smashed on the ground, raising a lot of dust. Han Dong decisively took out the golden-laid syringe and extracted the village chief's cell essence. However, he received an unexpected message: extracted cell essence quality and corpse essence. The latter is a special substance of this type of creature and can be used to strengthen the current temporary corpse. Chapter 1182. Corpse Essence. The village chief just mentioned this term. It seems that he intends to use me and the doctor's corpse to extract this substance. The method of extraction should rely on the steam technology here. I didn't expect that my syringe could bypass the complicated technical means and directly extract it. Presumably, the syringe considered that the corpse essence was useful to my current corpse, so it considered extracting the corpse essence separately during the extraction process. Otherwise, it would be left as a waste in the corpse. Han Dong temporarily put away the syringe and didn't rush to inject the corpse essence. Instead, he looked at a certain direction and whispered, "How long do you want to hide?" When Han Dong asked this, a black shadow immediately came out. It was the village chief's servant who was responsible for leading the way before. The paper lantern in his hand trembled with his body. The village chief, who was impossible to resist in his eyes, was killed in an instant. "Don't kill me. I'm just passing by." This reason was the worst one Han Dong had ever seen, but he still gave the other party a chance. "You saw this, why didn't I kill you?" "Because if you kill the village chief, you will be the new village chief. I'm actually the butler of the previous village chief. I will do my best to serve you, and you don't have to worry about anything. By the way, I can also be responsible for the dragon boat ceremony." Han Dong had long seen that this person was good. Now that he didn't know anything about the village, it was good to have such a guy as an assistant. "Oh, this reason is very good. Take us to the village chief's house. We still have a lot of things to ask you, so don't sleep today." Yes, Huang, village chief. Killing the original village chief and becoming the new village chief. This was the rule on the surface. When the news that the original village chief, Iron Corpse, Chen Dongshan, was killed spread, the whole village was in a state of excitement. Some villagers even took the initiative to offer their only corpse essence to express their gratitude. After all, the original village chief didn't treat the villagers as human beings at all and almost squeezed out everyone's corpse essence. As for the matter of taking over the village chief, Han Dong handed it over to the doctor. As the original fourth master of the Huang family, the doctor was more suitable for the position of village chief. At the same time, the doctor's brain was more suitable for storing large amounts of world information. When Han Dong was done with his business, he could ask the doctor for more details. This would save a lot of time. Right now, Han Dong needed to conduct an experiment on his own body. Because of the convenience of syringes, the cadaverine extracted from the village chief's body was stored in a separate syringe. It was black in color and appeared to be in a ferromagnetic state. It looked like a liquid, but also like iron filings arranged in a regular manner under the effect of a magnetic field. Name: Corpse Essence. Asterisk unique substance can be extracted from corpses in the current world. There is a large difference in quality. Injecting low-quality corpse essence could only give low-level power, and it was mixed with a lot of impurities, making it difficult to achieve zombification and the subsequent advancement. The system will advise you on how to absorb cadaverine when you collect it. Category and quality: heavy iron, low-grade zombie oil. Currently, it is still a normal zombie, but it can absorb zombie oil to reach the standard of zombie transformation. Effect: increased the progress of zombification, greatly increased the hardness of the body. Corpse essence. Interesting. However, there were even more secrets involved here. My brain was only analyzing the attributes of the corpse essence. Perhaps the tomb world also corresponded to something related to the cultivation of corpses. When the dragon boat arrives, I should know more information. Since the brain test can be used, there shouldn't be a problem. Besides, this body isn't mine. How should I inject this thing? If the corpse doesn't have a blood circulation system, conventional intravenous injection shouldn't work. When Han Dong asked the question, the laboratory AI system immediately answered frowny face heart injection. Although the corpse doesn't have the blood circulation of a human body, it still uses the heart as the main system to control the corpse energy all over the body. It is also a key organ involved in individual evolution. Heart? Then, come on. Han Dong directly inserted the syringe into the corresponding withered heart of the corpse, and a strand of liquid similar to a ferromagnetic state was slowly pushed into it. Logically speaking, the corpse should have no sense of touch, but when the syringe was pushed, there was a burst of discomfort. It was cold and heavy, as if a thick metal liquid was injected into the heart. Slowly, a corresponding heavy feeling came from all parts of the body. The sense of touch is recovering. The corpse is becoming more perfect. Is this the so-called zombification? Although the heart didn't feel good, he could feel a steady stream of power flowing through his body. Layers of thick skin similar to steel replaced the original epidermal tissue, and the skin looked like the texture of old bark. The nails were also growing and thickening, and black smoke continued to overflow. At the same time, a large number of strange, white hair appeared on the surface of the body. The most important change was the increase in weight. His weight had increased by more than 10 times. What Han Dong didn't know was that while he was undergoing zombification in the basement, the entire village chief's house was emitting thick black smoke. The original village chief was only one step away from becoming a real zombification. Now, Han Dong intercepted him halfway and used the syringe to extract all the zombie oil for his own use. In one fell swoop, he broke through the shackles of the conventional corpse and became the lowest zombie. This kind of zombification was the boat ticket mentioned by the village chief. Reaching this level, he might be able to board the dragon boat. Han Dong took a full hour to adapt to this change. He opened his eyes and showed an excited smile. With a wave of his hand, he dug a few centimeters of claw marks on the stone wall beside him. Not bad. Zombification. Can this system be introduced to the manor, as the doctor said? In theory, ghouls also belong to the category of corpse. If ghouls can be zombified, they will also break through the shackles of the hybrid demon and grow with a new system. Perhaps they can be mixed with the attributes of the hybrid demon and form a new species. Don't worry. Let's take a good look at this world first. I can feel that the barren mountains and villages we are currently in may not even be the tip of the iceberg. There must be a reason for the serious loss of control. Just as Han Dong walked out of the basement and returned to the house, he found that all the servants in the village house were in a kneeling position, and even the villagers on the street outside were in the same position. Congratulations to the young master for achieving zombification. In 2 days, we will welcome the dragon boat. At that time, those adults will be very satisfied. They will give our village more technology and qualifications because of your achievements. Oh, is zombification rare? For a remote, small, floating island like ours, it's really rare. It's not easy to achieve zombification in 100 years. After all, we are short of materials here, and we don't have any support from corpse collection. Okay. I'm looking forward to the arrival of the dragon boat. For a time, Han Dong had a strong interest in this out-of-control world. Chapter 1183. In the conversation with Zhao Qing, the butler, Han Dong and Dr. Swollen had a preliminary understanding of the tomb world. The first thing they talked about was the concept of floating island. As the name implied, it was an island floating in the air. As for the principle of floating, it was unknown for the time being. The village and the tomb mountain where Han Dong woke up were all on a floating island, and there were thousands of similar islands. This was just a small, or even a miniature floating island. But the butler didn't know the situation outside the floating island. According to him, anyone who knew what was going on in the outside world was long gone. The only way to get to the outside world was the dragon boat. Every 6 months, the dragon boat would come here once. If there were zombies in the village, they would be given the opportunity to leave by the dragon boat after a series of tests. This was the reason why the former village chief wanted to zombify at all costs. The boat ticket meant that the individual could smoothly leave this remote mountain village and go to a new world. In addition, Han Dong also heard a very interesting message from the butler. There is not only one way to zombify. In addition to using the steam technology brought by the dragon boat to refine corpse oil, zombification could also be achieved through self-cultivation. This kind of cultivation required a copy of corpse collection, which was also a piece of information given by the dragon boat. It was said that when the total number of zombies in the village exceeded 10, the dragon boat would provide the village with a copy of corpse collection. The villagers could cultivate the corpse energy in their bodies according to the cultivation method recorded in the book and achieve zombification through cultivation. This was also the reason why zombies would appear on some medium and large floating islands every once in a while. However, corpse essence and cultivation were equally important. If one achieved zombification through cultivation in the early stage, they also needed to replenish enough corpse essence later. As for the reason for the steam technology and zombification in the village, as Han Dong guessed, it was all brought by the dragon boat. The next evening, a group of people left the village from the main entrance and went up the hillside. One of the shadows would involuntarily jump every 2 steps. It seemed to have something to do with the body's instinct. The zombie movies in the motherland didn't lie to me. After zombification, the body will spontaneously let the legs move at the same time. Naturally, it evolved into a kind of knee jump. Let's just go with the flow. Han Dong's brain was completely capable of correcting this flaw. But considering the world's background and the needs of his identity, he gradually accepted this setting. While climbing up the mountain, he gradually abandoned the way he walked and switched from jumping to regular movement. He had 2 purposes for coming up the mountain this time. Firstly, he wanted to see the edge of the sky island at the end of the tomb mountain. Secondly, he wanted to fight for a chance for Dr. Swollen to turn into a zombie. The second point was especially important. There was still more than a day before the arrival of the dragon boat. He had to get a ticket for Dr. Swollen. Otherwise, he would have to wait for another half a year. The corpse essence that could be used to transform zombies in the village was basically squeezed dry by the former village chief. The only way to collect it was from the back mountain. The housekeeper, Zhao Qing, was in charge of leading the way with a paper lantern. According to him, there was a monster in the depths of the mountain that even the former village chief was afraid of. In order to eliminate his worries, the former village chief would bring a group of able-bodied villagers every once in a while, equip them with mechanical equipment provided by steam technology, and head to the back of the mountain to fight monsters. Every time, only the village chief managed to escape. The rest of the villagers were all dead. Housekeeper Zhao, is there some kind of zombie hiding in the back of the mountain? The former village chief forbade anyone to talk about this matter. Even I don't know. I just roughly know the location of the monster hiding in the back of the mountain. Interesting. The deeper they went into the back of the mountain, the more the lantern in the housekeeper's hand shook. Although there was a question he had asked twice, he still asked after thinking about it. The dragon boat will come to the village tomorrow. Young master has successfully transformed into a zombie. It's a matter of time before you board the dragon boat. Why don't we just forget about such a dangerous thing? Do you want to be the village chief? Han Dong suddenly threw out a question. Who doesn't want to? Haha. The housekeeper giggled. This time, if we succeed, my father and I will both transform into zombies. When we leave the village tomorrow, you will be the village chief. If we all die, you will also be the village chief. Isn't that good? That's right. No. If you can be taken away by the dragon boat, the village will get a lot of materials and technical support. Young master, you are the hope of the whole village. Han Dong just smiled and put his heavy palm on the housekeeper's shoulder. You just need to take us to a similar place. Then you can go back to the village. You must prepare for tomorrow's dragon boat ceremony. My father and I will be back on time. A strong pressure spread from his palm into the housekeeper's body. This kind of strong pressure was far beyond that of the former village chief. If the housekeeper's organs could still function normally, he should have peed by now. Okay. After passing through the burial area, they continued to walk in the mountain forest. The trees here were exposed to the highly toxic air for a long time. A large amount of bark tissue similar to pustules grew on the surface of the trees, and foul liquid constantly flowed out from the inside. Even if Han Dong's zombie body accidentally touched it, it would immediately emit white smoke, and grain-sized holes would be corroded on the hard body. If you keep going deeper, you should be able to see a cave. The monster is inside. Okay, you can go. Okay. Housekeeper Zhao's escape speed was absolutely first class. He left the forest area in a flash. Doctor, open your perception. Inform me immediately if anything happens. Okay. Full perception, Dr. Swollen, who was recognized as a high-end brain class, Migo by the second source. Pope showed a strange form when his perception was fully opened. Tentacles with a sulcus structure immediately drilled out from the ears, nose, and mouth, achieving the effect of radar. At the same time, the protruding spine also had a symmetrical growth of sulcus tentacles. It could be seen that the doctor was quite skilled in controlling the body. Even with this strange corpse, he could achieve 100% control. Lure this way. Under the doctor's perception, he quickly found the cave that housekeeper Zhao spoke of. What a heavy corpse aura! Wisps of gray and black smoke were visible to the naked eye from the cave entrance. Doctor, don't force yourself later. The things here may be really difficult to deal with. You're mainly responsible for providing me with spiritual assistance. Okay, but can the housekeeper's words really be trusted? He did lie in some places, but because of the lies, the level of interest here is higher. The former village chief avoided talking about the things here, and every once in a while, he would bring people to crusade. But he was the only one who survived, and he wasn't even injured. Isn't it a bit strange? I'm afraid that what's going on here isn't some crusade, but worship. The former village chief was very afraid of the things here. Every once in a while, he would bring a group of villagers to feed them in a way of providing food to stabilize the things here. The reason why the village chief tried so hard to get a ticket, even suppressing the villagers' corpse essence, is because he wants to leave this floating island quickly. If the things here are not satisfied with the feeding, the village will suffer a disaster. Chapter 1184. My lord, let me lead the way. Dr. Swollen volunteered to walk in front. Unexpectedly, as soon as he stepped into the cave, the doctor's brain also trembled. A sense of danger was clearly transmitted to his brain. Although he did not know the level of the current world, the things hidden in the cave could completely threaten Count. Don't be nervous. I'm here. As an arm landed on the doctor's shoulder, the nervousness disappeared immediately. The structure of the cave in front of them was very strange. There were no forks, and there was no relatively large inner cave area, only a downward passage. The downward slope continued to increase as they went deeper into the cave. When the slope exceeded 45 degrees, there was a tendency to slide down. When it reached 70 degrees, Han Dong and the doctor both needed to use some of the stone pillars and walls in the cave to support their bodies. This is too exaggerated. It's almost 90 degrees vertical. Speaking of which, this should be the village chief's feeding point. When the slope reached 90 degrees, there were some scratches and liquid residue in the passage. The poor villagers who were brought here before should have been fed here. My lord, are we really going down? The doctor felt the gloomy aura coming from below. All the tentacles in his brain had collapsed, and he could vaguely sense some kind of terrible monster wandering below. Doctor, it seems that you've stayed in the manor for too long. This level is nothing at all. If Grim was here, I'm afraid he would have jumped down directly to kill. My lord, you're thinking too highly of me by comparing me to the first prime. Then should I go down? I'll go down first, you follow behind. Han Dong pulled out his nails from the wall and let his body slide freely down the 90 degrees passage. After sliding down for about 100 meters, he could vaguely see the exit at the bottom. At the same time, in the vision of the magic eye, a huge body that did not belong to the category of human beings was reflected. Han Dong immediately slowed down and waited for the professor above to fall. Then, he grabbed the professor. Void, as the starlight spread out from his brain, it overflowed his whole body. Whoosh! Teleportation. Skipping the process of sliding down, he directly arrived at the bottom of the cave. It was a completely different world. The cave, which was a downward passage, became an unusually open space here, with thick corpse gas deposited here. The reason why Han Dong chose to teleport was because the monster was already guarding the exit of the tunnel. No wonder it's hidden here. The environment down here is pretty good. It's right at the bottom of the burial area. All the corpse energy from the corpses in the burial ground will sink here. It's a good place for corpse cultivation. Was this thing a mechanical corpse demon? The thing that was entrenched here made Han Dong excited. The doctor behind him was also excited. It was a kind of excitement for scientific research. The monster in front of him not only had the most basic biological characteristics, but it also had mechanical elements. Its basic form was a zombie ape that was more than 5 meters tall. Its entire body was covered with white hair that was similar to the village chief's. In the shoulders, spine, and calves, there was a mechanical column structure which seemed to be able to provide a kind of mechanical power to the individual through the movement of the piston up and down, or a kind of energy-embedded device. The most conspicuous and eye-catching structure was the back. A black spine covered in metal protruded out. Every joint corresponded to a mechanical column. It felt like this spine was the driving force of the entire body. Judging from its white hair and hardened skin, it was indeed a zombie. Doctor, this thing is really suitable for you. I'm going. Han Dong used the body of the zombie to jump straight to the corpse demon ape not far away. During the jump, the fingernails on both hands grew to about 1/2 meter, trying to directly cut the opponent's body, just as he was about 5 meters away. Danger! A strong sense of danger came from the faceless one's head. Han Dong decisively abandoned all attacks and shouted. The seemingly stupid ape guarding the exit at the top suddenly waved its hand. During the waving of the arm, the mechanical column installed on the right shoulder had a compression phenomenon from which a lot of steam overflowed. Whether it was strength or speed, it was several times stronger than the village chief. The jumping Han Dong in the middle of the palm. Bang! A wave of air visible to the naked eye swayed at the point of impact. Han Dong's shadow was shot out like a bullet. Boom! When it hit the wall, the whole cave was trembling, and its body sank about 5 meters deep. However, Han Dong didn't have much of a painful expression. Instead, he smiled. That's more like it. Iron nails had appeared on the surface of the body. Deep imitation, Togu Han Dong, who obtained the body of an iron zombie through the zombie transformation, was already very hard. Now, he continued to add the copper skin and iron bones of the great demon. Hard. However, without the support of the black vortex torso, the deep imitation would consume a lot of physical strength. After receiving the ape's attack, he decisively removed the imitation. The upcoming Dragon Boat ceremony is the real big event. Try to save it for that time. Count. What? A gloomy voice came from the body. Do you want to try the new body? It's very hard. I don't want to. After a month of being beaten up, the Earl's mentality had changed. This is a great opportunity to show your purity. Try the results of this month. The Fight Club must have its reasons for being a large organization in the Black Tower. Come on, the main thing is that this body stinks. It doesn't match the image of this count. Then I'll leave it to you. Don't go too far. Okay, on the other side, the corpse demon ape that slapped Han Dong away immediately locked on to the swollen doctor. It smelled a special fragrance from the doctor, the smell of top-grade brain flowers. Sizzle. The three mechanical columns on its back were compressed inwards, and steam was constantly overflowing. Its speed increased sharply. The doctor didn't even have time to release a brain domain secret technique. However, there was a black shadow that was faster than the ape coming from the side. The giant ape's perception was extremely sharp, and in the process of rushing forward, it slapped the black shadow from the side. Unexpectedly, the black shadow wasn't hit this time, but changed its position in the air. While dodging, the black shadow smoothly fell on the arm of the corpse demon ape. At this time, the black shadow faded a little red, stepping on the arm of the corpse demon ape, and burst out with an indescribable speed. It dived down, accelerated, and punched straight. Crack! The sound of bones breaking could be heard. The corpse demon ape's body that was running forward suddenly fell to the side, and a kind of stinky brain fluid flowed out from its shattered skull. At the same time, the black shadow fell to the ground. The black shadow was naturally Han Dong. His gaze, aura, and some parts of his body had all changed. The most obvious physical change was his right arm. The zombie's right arm was covered in red tentacles, and an extremely exaggerated structure formed on his forearm. A terrifying boxing glove made of intertwined canine teeth, bloody bones, and eyeballs. Count, who had taken over the body, looked at his arm in surprise, and then examined his entire body. The series of dodging, accelerating, and punching movements just now were very strange. It didn't seem like the brain gave orders and then the body carried them out. Instead, it seemed to go with the flow, and the body's actions when facing danger were coherent, swift, and extremely powerful. Purity? Just as Count was surprised by his changes, the corpse demon ape that had fallen in front of him grabbed him and held his body tightly. Chapter 1185. The recovery speed is so fast. Or is it that the brain is not important at all? The reason why Count stood where he was and examined the state of his body was because the punch just now had caused considerable damage to the target. Not only did he break the corpse demon ape skull with one punch, the moment the fist glove on his right arm broke the skull, it turned into a bloodhound and destroyed the brain inside. The underworld bloodhound's teeth bit the decaying brain into pieces. The core of the fist glove was an epic equipment, underworld blood skull. The entire glove was made of underworld blood, and its destructive power was shocking. Who would have thought that this level of destruction would not affect it at all? Instead, it immediately regained its mobility and grabbed Count in its hand. Buzz. Blood flashed. The fist glove turned into a bloodhound with underworld blood skulls all over its body. It bit the huge palm that was binding Count and broke free from the corpse demon ape's control. At this moment, Han Dong, who was watching the battle in his body, spoke. Now I can be sure that this ape is completely driven by its spine. However, Count, you must defeat it while ensuring that its spine is intact. At the same time, you're not allowed to borrow the related abilities of my brain. Yes, Count can naturally do it. Count could understand Han Dong's harsh requirements. He had experienced so many fate events with Han Dong, and he was very clear about one thing. There must not be any compromise at the beginning. Getting a full score at the beginning was the key to clearing the event. At this moment, the corpse demon ape began to undergo a strange change. Perhaps it was because its brain was damaged, or the prey in its hand could easily escape. Or perhaps the corpse demon ape itself sensed the danger of the intruder in front of it. A special mode was activated. The white hair all over its body retracted back into its body. In exchange, it had a skin that was similar to the rock layer. In terms of hardness, it was probably stronger than Han Dong, who had just turned into a zombie. At the same time, the mechanical pillars distributed in different parts of its body were all in a state of compression, and a large amount of steam kept flowing out. The corpse demon ape's sudden burst of speed shocked Count. It was almost twice as fast as before. Let me borrow your eyes. Yes. The demonic eye opened. This allowed Count to see the ape's movements clearly. He used his tentacles to pull the wall behind him, barely dodging the slap. The moment he dodged, he threw a backhand punch. Clang! The sound of metal colliding echoed in the cave. So hard, he could have easily broken through it before. When the punch landed on the corpse demon ape's arm, the impact caused Count's fist to go numb, and the effect of the attack was terrible. It broke through the stone-like skin in front of him, leaving behind a bloody bite mark. Are all the corpses in this world so hard? If only we had the holy sword. Although it was a little difficult, Count did not panic at all. The intensity of the battle in front of him was still far from being comparable to that of the Fight Club. Although the corpse demon ape's body was huge and its speed and strength were very strong, it was still much better compared to the monsters in the club. Of course, with such a huge ape's physique, coupled with its hardness and the large amount of corpse energy accumulated in its body, a protracted battle was inevitable. Inside the village, housekeeper Zhao had called on more than half of the villagers to start the reception of the dragon boat. Whether Han Dong and the doctor could return safely or not, the ceremony to welcome the dragon boat must be held. Housekeeper Zhao also had a fluke mentality. He was the most powerful corpse besides the village chief and the young master. Maybe the other party was in the mood to take him away. It took a full 20 hours to prepare. The streets and alleys were full of banners to welcome the dragon boat. At the same time, 3 barrels of corpse oil, squeezed out through steam technology, were also prepared as an offering, which was also used as a standard to judge the mastery of the village's technology by the dragon boat. The adults on the dragon boat would judge the development potential of the village through various details and provide different levels of material assistance. Housekeeper Zhao sat on the highest watchtower in the village, waiting for the arrival of the dragon boat. There are only 3 hours left before the dragon boat arrives. The village chief and the others have been in the cave for a whole day. Could they have died? Sigh, it's a pity. I can't extract the corpse essence if they died in that kind of place. What a waste. Just as housekeeper Zhao showed a smile and a sad expression because of pity, a dragon shadow was reflected in the clouds in the distance. It was as if a true dragon was roaming in the clouds, but soon after, an even bigger shadow appeared. Dragon boat, isn't there still 3 hours left? They are very punctual. How could it be ahead of time? Housekeeper Zhao quickly pulled the bell on the watchtower to inform the whole village. The drums and gongs all over the village were immediately beaten by the corpse to welcome the arrival of the dragon boat. The dragon boat was not a ship sailing in the sea, but a fortress-level air warship. First, a golden dragon from the east emerged from the clouds. A lot of steam was spewed out from the dragon's mouth. In fact, the golden dragon was not a living creature, but a bow statue. Then, a steam warship like a small city came into view. Even though housekeeper Zhao had seen it many times, he was still shocked, speechless by this scene. It was too magnificent. This dragon boat alone was more than the size of the village. A total of 16 large aerodynamic wind propellers were running at high speed, showing no signs of slowing down. Huh? Where are they going? Shouldn't they slow down at this time? Just as housekeeper Zhao was curious, the shadow of the dragon boat had shrouded the entire village. It did not respond to the village's welcoming ceremony at all, but flew toward the back of the mountain. Dragon boat control room. A man in an official's uniform, with a strong body and black gas coming out of his mouth, was staring at the back of the mountain with a puzzled face. How can this small floating island that doesn't even exist in corpse collection give birth to a powerful corpse? Not to mention killing the corpse demons raised here in the Imperial City. Although the corpse demons here are still white, they are the more difficult ape demons. Moreover, they are equipped with a steam dynamic pressure device in their bodies. It is impossible to kill them with just these inferior zombies. An old man sitting in the corner said softly, "Just look, small floating islands may also give birth to capable people. Isn't the current assistant minister of the Ministry of War also born on a small floating island? Moreover, now is the time to use people. It is a good thing that such a genius is born. Later, I will go down and check the situation myself. The dragon boat slowed down, and the place where it hovered just happened to be the cave. A tall black shadow in an official's uniform quickly landed at the entrance of the cave and smelled the scent that remained at the door. Zombie. However, the time of the zombie transformation is not long. Just as he was about to go deeper, the sound of talking and laughing came from inside the cave. He saw a zombie with his arms stretched out in front of him, and his whole body turned into iron. He moved forward by jumping slightly, and beside him was an old man with a severely hunched back with his spine exposed. Both of them exuded the aura of zombies. Moreover, the old man with a hunched back also had the scent of a corpse demon on him. His exposed spine seemed to come from a corpse demon ape. Chapter 1186. Let's move the time forward before the dragon boat arrived in the cave. In fact, the protracted battle at the bottom of the cave actually ended 10 hours before the arrival of the dragon boat. Without injuring his back, Han Dong's body, which was controlled by the Count's consciousness, completely destroyed the corpse demon ape head-on. Through the continuous destruction of the body, the corpse energy accumulated in his body was exhausted. Finally, Dr. Swollen secretly released the brain tentacles through the broken neck of the ape to invade and interfere with its nervous system. It completely lost the ability to move. Without waiting for Count to claim the credit, a powerful consciousness directly pushed him down. Next would be Han Dong and the doctor's happy time. A comprehensive body analysis of the corpse demon ape. The extraction of corpse essence would be left until the end. What kind of technology is this mechanical planting? During the autopsy process, a special technology shocked Han Dong and the doctor. The mechanical column on the ape was not connected to the body through external or embedded technology. It was more like it grew in the flesh. The doctor connected the brain nerves with the nerve lines near the mechanical column and nodded. It does look like it was planted. The mechanical column was implanted from the outside when the corpse ape was young. In the subsequent growth process, the mechanical column grew with the individual. Can a STEAM technology in the manner do this? Mechanical growth, this belongs to a new field. Perhaps it is a technology unique to this world. If we can bring it back, the mechanical technology of our manor can rise to a new field. We can even carry out mechanical planting on the embryonic ghouls. The effect is far better than the later mechanical transformation. It seems that the technology brought by the dragon boat is quite advanced. It's getting more and more interesting. I will try to bring this technology back if I have enough points. Well, as long as the Lord can bring back the technology, I will do all the follow-up work. As long as it was related to technology, Dr. Swollen showed full interest. As a hybrid demon with no restrictions on desire, the doctor's main desire was scientific research. The two continued to examine the ape's body. Its basic structure was not much different from the zombie Han Dong. The only difference was the green corpse energy contained in the abdominal cavity, which was a green gel state. It was an alternative energy source. After a series of examinations, the doctor even simulated a report in his mind. Next, Han Dong took out a syringe with golden edges and inserted it directly into the spine. The moment he pulled the plunger of the syringe, the corpse demon ape immediately died. Within a few seconds, its body turned into a dried corpse that could be touched with a single touch. The syringe also intelligently stored the cell essence and cadaverine separately. This time, he collected a tube of a gray gelatinous substance, which looked like spinal fluid concentrate. This kind of zombie monster with the spine, as its core, was simply tailor-made for the doctor's current corpse. Doctor, are you ready? I'm going to stab you. All right. Immediately, a burst of pierced into the doctor's back, pushing the gray substance into it at a uniform speed. All of a sudden, the corpse energy that filled the cavern was mobilized and sucked into the doctor's back. The originally white spine immediately produced a large number of black spots and even the entire spine turned black. At the same time, the two people's mechanical planting point of view was also confirmed. Small mechanical columns also slowly grew out of the doctor's spine, matching the size of his spine. Unbelievable. Machines can transfer and grow like cells. At the same time, Hondon's analysis report was also given. Cadaverine, asterisk unique substance, can be extracted from corpses in the current world. There is a big difference in quality and type. Source, ape-type zombie monster, mixed with mechanical organization. Type, strengthened spinal fluid quality. Inferior zombie oil effect. Increase the progress of zombification. Increase the hardness of the corpse body, strengthen the spine, and give the corresponding mechanical attributes. Sure enough, everything is different. Although the cadaverine extracted from the ape's spine is the same quality as the village chief's body, the effect is obviously stronger than the ape's. Moreover, it is mainly displayed on the spine, and at the same time, it also has mechanical attributes. With the subsequent contact with the dragon boat, this mechanical attribute may play a certain convenience. This is also good. Let the doctor have a better opportunity to perform, and it can also relatively weaken my sense of existence. After all, he is the village chief. The zombification process that took place on the swollen doctor lasted for a full 5 hours. In addition to the conventional zombification, there was also the process of metal planting and growth. When the protruding metal columns were completely formed, the exposed spine also made a cracking sound. It was a pure, qualitative change. Doctor, how do you feel? I feel we could try to introduce this thing into the manor. It can make a big deal. The doctor's way of thinking was completely different from other hybrid demons, and he rarely thought about himself. Even the doctor's evolution of the hybrid demon was forced to evolve because he felt that his brain capacity was not enough during the experiment. No hurry, we haven't seen the true face of this world yet. Zombification should only be regarded as a beginner here. Let's focus on the current matter first, and see if we can bring it back later. Doctor, the next action is to beat them at their own game, with your main intention to promote the progress of the event. Okay, let's do as the feudal lord said. Just like this, the two talked and laughed, just as they were about to walk out of the cave. A powerful aura hit them in the face. Although Hondon's body could not be brought over, his brain functions were perfectly preserved. At present, his brain could feel a strong sense of danger, and the degree was much higher than the village chief and the zombie monster ape that had just been dealt with. If the other party was hostile, it would be a fierce battle. With the demon eye, it was full of black miasma. Inside the miasma was a zombie, wearing an official uniform similar to the Qing dynasty. A burly, huge, and even exaggerated physique could only be seen in some hardcore manga. Every time it exhaled, there was a strong pressure. It was not a physical weight, but a kind of pressure on the soul. Hondon's reaction was quick. He did not show any offensive posture, but lowered his head and bowed. Greetings, sir. Although Hondong had never seen the mysterious person on the dragon boat, he was sure that this person was definitely not from the island with this kind of uniform and this level of strength. How bold. Do you know what kind of serious crime you have committed? Hondong was about to say something to the doctor, who was the village chief, and let him state it. I don't know. The day before yesterday, I just became the village chief. I heard from the former village chief that there was a fierce zombie monster hidden in the depths of the Tomb Mountain. It relied on feeding the villagers to stabilize the zombie monster's ferocity for a long time. But this method is not a long-term move. Once it is not controlled well, it will threaten the safety of the village and may even destroy the important dragon boat ceremony. I brought my family here to try to get rid of this scourge before the arrival of the dragon boat, but I don't know what crime I have committed. What you killed is the zombie monster raised here by the Imperial City. You have committed an additional crime. Hondong had long guessed that the mechanized zombie monster was related to this group of people, but he did not expect that it was also related to the completely unknown Imperial City. If this was the case, it was really a bad start. At this moment, an old voice came from the sky. Pei Zheng, don't scare them. It seems that such a small floating island really has two extraordinary zombies. Pei Zheng, take them to the boat. Chapter 1187. Dragon Boat. It had a total length of 630 meters, a width of 280 meters, and a height of 150 meters. It had a martial arts practice platform, mechanical building, internal affairs building, armaments warehouse, and so on. Because it involved the zombie demon related to the imperial city, Han Dong and the doctor were taken to a room on the top floor of the internal affairs building. This guest room was not accessible casually. Even on the Dragon Boat, some famous crew members needed to get approval before they were allowed to go there. Naturally, Pei Zheng was also accompanying them. At the same time, this person was also the chief instructor and the chief guard of the Dragon Boat. Just following this person would make one feel great pressure. Although Han Dong could offset it with his own domain, he did not do so. He maintained a difficult walking appearance and followed with his head lowered the whole time. Governor, the zombies of Jiyun Island have been brought here. Come in. The door was opened. A sandalwood smell immediately overflowed. Although the zombies could not breathe, this fragrance could automatically enter the nasal cavity and transmit olfactory information. Such a fragrance could calm the anxiety of the individual. Wooden table, scroll, oil lamp. An official hat embroidered with golden dragon patterns was also knocked on the corner of the wooden table. Inside the wooden table sat an old zombie. His extremely withered body was like a piece of old skin attached to the outer layer of the skeleton. Even so, the old man had a pair of sharp eyes that seemed to be able to pierce through the heart of others. He immediately noticed the abnormality of the swollen doctor. It was not that he saw through the doctor's identity, but he noticed the mechanical column on the spine. Unbelievable, what we gave the village is only the most basic mechanical technology. It can only be used to squeeze corpse oil at the physical level, and then through layers of basic technology, it can be refined into corpse essence. This method can't transfer the mechanical attributes inoculated in the zombie demon's body. How'd you do it? The next answer was crucial. Han Dong had already written a response in his heart. The matter of the metal syringe must be concealed. He did not answer the question of mechanical transfer alone. Instead, he told the whole story of killing the zombie demon to distract the old zombie's attention. Of course, the oral narration was carried out by the doctor, and Han Dong was only responsible for quietly transmitting sound. He spent a lot of time exaggerating the difficult process of killing the corpse demon. It also indicated that the village chief, who had yet to turn into a zombie, was on the brink of death in the battle with the zombie monster. He had no time to bring the zombie monster back to the village and carry out the more complicated process of extracting corpse essence. At the critical moment of life and death, he directly asked the village chief to perform spinal suction on the zombie demon's spine. I didn't know what the consequences would be back then. Since I was going to die anyway, I might as well give it a try. I already had the characteristics of a spine, so when I was sucking, I felt a surge of power rushing towards my spine and then flowing through my spine throughout my body. While my injuries were slowly recovering, it also gave me a chance to zombie. During the process, I clearly felt some kind of cold metal growing from the inside of my spine. As the doctor finished his presentation, the old man in front of him revealed a faint smile. At the moment of life and death, you chose to suck the spine of a corpse demon? This ape had its spine modified when it was young. No wonder you could turn into a zombie by chance. Not bad. I hope you can get good results in the Imperial City exam. As for the zombie monster, you don't have to worry about it. My great corpse country only cares about the strong and the weak. Since you killed the zombie monster, you're more valuable. Go and rest. We still have to visit the remaining islands before returning to the Imperial City. Thank you, sir. Han Dong and the doctor immediately returned along the original path. However, although it seemed to be going smoothly, Han Dong was sweating profusely. When he was talking to the old man, he could clearly feel that the other party's sharp eyes were capturing all kinds of details. Any lie could be exposed. It's really not simple. If this old man was in my world, he should be a character like Mr. Black and White. It's going well. Let's start the world of Tomb at 90 points. I hope everything goes smoothly. They left the internal affairs building. The two went straight to the edge of the deck of the dragon boat, trying to take a look at the appearance of the current world. It was a pity that the dragon boat was sailing in thick clouds. The essence of this cloud was some kind of ancient corpse energy. Even Han Dong's demon, I could not see through it. Naturally, he could not overlook the vast appearance of the world. However, he still saw something. Chain, a huge chain that seemed to extend infinitely, ran through the clouds. One end of this chain was connected to the floating island where Han Dong was resurrected. As for the other end, it was unknown. It might be connected to the Imperial City, or it might be connected to another place. As the dragon boat sailed quickly, they soon arrived at the next island. Han Dong did not pay attention to the dragon boat ceremony on the island, nor did he pay attention to whether zombies had come to the boat. His eyes were locked on the edge of the island, and he saw a chain extending from the bottom of the island. Sure enough, this floating island also has a huge chain. Is this the Imperial City's way of controlling the surrounding floating islands? Or is it some kind of seal? Or is it a characteristic of the world itself? Or is it a worldwide influence brought about by losing control? In any case, it must be related to the world's origin. Perhaps it's the key to finding the Rampager and completing the mission. Han Dong really wanted to jump onto the chain to check the situation, but unfortunately, his current identity did not allow him to do so. The dragon boat traveled between the floating islands. A series of zombies from different floating islands were all given tickets after passing the identification. In fact, it was an opportunity to leave the small village and go to the Imperial City. When the dragon boat passed by the last floating island on the way, the dragon boat, all the zombies who boarded the boat were summoned to the training field. Han Dong acted as a very normal zombie with his arms hanging in front of him and moving by jumping. Due to the limitation of his spine, the doctor could only stoop or crawl. There were a total of 73 zombies gathered in the training field. Some large floating islands could transport several zombies at a time because of the existence of corpse collection. The zombies were not all standard zombies like Han Dong. There were also special individuals similar to the doctor. Some had huge arms that dragged on the ground, some were wrapped in thick hair, and they had different shapes. The voice of the dragon boat's chief instructor, Pei Zheng, came from above. Don't be complacent because of ticket. You are just the lowest islanders who have completed the most basic zombification process. Next, you will go to Corpse Country, Imperial City for the basic test. Those who pass the test will have the opportunity to live in the country. Those who fail will be reduced to locksmith and will never set foot in the country for the rest of their lives. Locksmith? Is it related to the iron chain I saw before? While Han Dong was thinking, the dragon boat had left the cloud area, and the zombies on the training field also looked in the direction of the bow one after another. What appeared in front of them was a city-state that was 100 times larger than a large floating island. It was suspended in the air. The city wall was not made of rock or metal. Instead, it was made of zombies' remains that were stronger than steel. The shortest part was at least 100 meters high. At the same time, any area inside the city-state had a strong corpse aura floating up at all times. The corpse aura released by the citizens, coupled with a certain large array inside the Imperial City, formed a barrier that enveloped the whole country. Undead miasma. Corpse Country. Although he was shocked, Han Dong noticed that the suspended Corpse Country was not the source of the chain. Similarly, the lower end of the suspended country was also connected to a vertical chain. Like the chain connecting the other floating islands, it pointed to a certain location underground. Chapter 1188. Corpse Country. When the dragon boat passed through the cloud area and was able to survey the floating country, Han Dong's heart trembled. As a node holder, Han Dong could roughly evaluate the current country. In terms of size and scale, The corpse country was larger than Prometheus Shun, due the energy contained inside was more than the total amount of Shun due, not to mention. The giant chain connected to the floating island and the corpse country might lead to another dangerous area. Han Dong was a little stunned by this scene. What's going on? Prometheus Shun do corresponds to a 5-star medium-sized world. Why does it feel stronger here? With my current level and status as an intern, I should be able to interfere with out-of-control events in medium-size and below worlds at most. Could it be? Han Dong thought of Dre Town, which he owned shares in. Could it be that Toon Country was already evolving when this world was out of the control of the Black Tower? That's right. The Black Tower's intelligence on the Toon Country is still a few years ago. The situation is indeed much more troublesome than expected. No wonder several teams of employees died here. All right, Han Dong calmed himself down. Although the scale of the world was huge, the current start was not bad. As the dragon boat approached the city wall, the skinny old man who had previously received Han Dong and the doctor appeared on the observation deck at the dragon head of the hull. When he saw the old man, the zombies in charge of the city wall immediately opened the corpse miasma breach for the dragon boat to pass through. When they sailed into Shundu, Han Dong thought he could see the corpse country from the air. Who knew that there were still layers of measures inside? The extremely complicated national zoning structure was separated from each other by highly toxic canals, corpse city walls, or special enchantments. The sky above each zoning was also shrouded in corpse gas, making it impossible to spy on any information from the dragon boat. Click! The dragon boat docked at an airport hundreds of meters above the ground. The test, mentioned by Pei Zheng, would be held on the dragon boat. The reason why there was no test during the formality was because he was mainly worried that some of the zombies who failed to pass the test and ended up as locksmiths would forcefully jump off the ship and commit suicide. Now that he was in need of people, even the lowest level of trash could play a role. The performance test is simply divided into a written test and a martial arts test. As long as you pass one of them, you will pass the test. With that said, a stout and sturdy zombie that was more than 5 meters tall jumped out of the mechanical building. Every jump would cause the training ground to tremble slightly. Soon, they arrived at the center of the training ground. The martial exam is very simple. Each of you will have 2 chances to attack the giant zombie. As long as your attacks can shake the target, you will pass. After that, head straight to the internal affairs building for the written exam. Zombies had all experienced the transition from corpses to zombies. This was very similar to the transition from ordinary fiends to fiends in the hybrid devil world. The qualitative change here was quite obvious. Due to the influx of powerful energy, it would more or less give rise to a sense of invincibility. It was inevitable that these villagers who had never seen the world would have such a mentality. There were several pretentious zombies who dared to show off their force on the wall in an attempt to leave a good impression on Pei Zheng, the chief instructor. Maybe they could even stay on the dragon boat as a boatman. However, a series of zombies came forward to take the test, and the passing rate was only 31%. Some of the special zombies could basically pass. For example, a zombie with a fat arm who dragged on the ground knocked the giant zombie back 2 steps with 1 punch and left a shallow fist mark on the surface of the zombie's body. But ordinary zombies like Han Dong found it difficult to use explosive strength. As a result, they were often unable to shake the target. During this period, there were even accidents. Although this giant zombie would let everyone attack without any movement, one of the zombies changed to headbutt attack after the first attack was ineffective. Bending his knees and accumulating strength, he directly launched his body out. Crack! He slightly hit the target and his head was broken. There was a lot of laughter in the training ground, of course. The breaking of the head was not a fatal injury for the zombies, and it could be completely repaired. This zombie also advanced because of the slight vibration. Doctor, use your full strength in a while. Try to get the highest evaluation. I guess the assessment here may also involve some official positions in addition to our qualifications to enter the city. Understood. What about you, Lord? I will try to minimize my presence as much as possible. I'm considering a two-pronged action to find the source of loss of control. If the source of the loss of control is not in the Imperial City at all, or even not in the Corpse Kingdom, our search will waste a lot of time, and we may also be exposed when searching the Imperial City. The reason why Han Dong had such conjecture was because of the huge chain that the dragon boat spied during the voyage. Han Dong's intuition was that these chains connecting the floating island and the Corpse Kingdom should be related to the origin of the world. Perhaps there were some unspeakable secrets hidden underground. Next, the doctor appeared. The exposed black spine and the mechanical column protruding between the spines attracted the attention of most people. The way the doctor attacked was actually the same as the funny zombie from before, which was to use a headbutt. Sizzle. The mechanical column on the surface of the spine was all compressed, releasing a large amount of steam. The speed of the sprint was almost the same as the zombie demon ape, and even faster because of its smaller size. As for why it used a headbutt, the doctor's main body was the brain. During the period of zombification, the skull was also heavily reinforced. The material and density of the skull were comparable to the spine. Coupled with the internal support of the swollen brain, the skull became the hardest part of the body. The curved spine also brought about a catapult effect. Such an attack made the giant zombie, who had never moved, raise its palm to block for the first time. Boom! A strong collision sound spread in the arena. The giant zombie's body took a full 3 steps back. The palm used to block the attack was hit with a hole the size of a head. This scene shocked all the zombies present. The chief instructor Pei Zheng's expression also changed a little. He softly commented, not bad. As expected of the zombie who could kill the zombie demon and accidentally obtain the mechanical plant. This kind of quality seems to be just like what the governor said. With a little training, it can be used by the imperial court. The doctor touched his shiny head and walked toward the internal affairs building. With the doctor's brain, it would not be a problem to get a good score in the literature exam. Next, it was Han Dong's turn. There were no small movements, nor did he let the tentacles spread all over his body to strengthen his body. He directly attacked the existing zombie. Clang! The seemingly fat, giant zombie was not soft at all. In fact, it was like a huge bell, almost breaking Han Dong's fingernails. Han Dong failed the martial arts exam. Please go to the internal affairs building to take the literature exam in 1 minute. Chapter 1189. The written exam set up here was very different from the imperial examination in Han Dong's mind. The written exam here was more like a brain test, a test of the brain's ability. Although the corpse country was similar to the ancient empires of Kyushu in some aspects, there was still a big difference in nature. For example, the steam machine technology in the corpse country and the bottom feeders made up of zombies. Han Dong had a very casual attitude. If he could pass such an exam, he would pass it. If he couldn't, he would become a locksmith. After all, he could explore this world from any direction, so it didn't matter to Han Dong. When he stepped into the first floor of the internal affairs building, he was personally led by a zombie with a talisman on its forehead. The talisman's function was not to suppress evil, but to keep the zombie's consciousness awake. Han Dong was quickly brought to a separate room. In addition to the 4 treasures of the study on the table, there was also a series of small machines. Please answer the questions on the scroll within the allotted time and complete the decryption of the small machines. Okay, Han Dong stared at the small machines on the table and wanted to laugh. This was nothing more than a strengthened version of the puzzle toys he had when he was young. There were Rubik's Cubes and some metal buckles, and the final step involved the assembly of a precision watch. As for the content on the scroll, most of it involves some more open management questions. It's very simple, but I'll be more casual. If I can pass, I'll pass. If I can't, I'll go work. If he wanted to be serious, Han Dong could fill the scroll with answers from different angles. He could even write down the decryption process of the metal machines on the side. However, Han Dong's choice was only half done. It depended on the other party's arrangement. An hour passed. After finishing the written exam, all the zombies from the floating island gathered at the training field. At the same time, a large number of zombies emitting green auras surrounded the training field, waiting for the results of the written exam to be announced. A zombie with a talisman on its forehead announced the results. When all the zombies' results are announced, those who pass can draw a district card for me. Li Yin, good in the martial exam, pass in the written exam, obtain the right to live in the corpse country. Lin Shi, pass in the martial exam, fail in the written exam, obtain the right to live in the corpse country. Zhang Quan, martial arts exam results, failed, literature exam results, failed. When he read the name of the zombie who failed both tests, an incomparably sturdy metal ring was immediately thrown in from outside the field, locking the neck of this person. As the results were announced one after another, about 1/3 of the zombies failed and became locksmiths. Two of them were so agitated that they tried to commit suicide. Who would have thought that a talisman would float over and stick to their heads? Their resisting emotions were soothed, and it could even be said that they were completely controlled. Finally, it was Dr. Swelling's turn to announce his results. Huang Zicheng, excellent results in the martial arts exam and excellent results in the literature exam. You have obtained the right to reside in the zombie nation and the right to take the imperial exam. You have been summoned by Governor Pei. After the results of the other zombies are announced, please head to the top floor of the Internal Affairs building. The other zombies were envious when they received such a report. However, the doctor himself was a little worried. He quickly looked at Han Dong beside him. Han Dong's voice immediately sounded, "Doctor, very good. It seems that there's a high probability that you will stay in the Imperial City to work for the court. In that case, you can start from the inside. Remember one thing. Inquire about the information about the rampagers. Your main focus should be on fighting for power and status. If you can obtain a certain official position in the court, it will be convenient for us to close the net in the future. Moreover, the mechanical technology in the zombie nation should also be concentrated in the Imperial City. You should be very interested." Got it. Next, it was Han Dong's turn to announce his results. Han Dong, failed results in the martial arts exam and passed results in the literature exam. You have obtained the right to reside in the zombie nation. Huh? I really passed. He didn't have the expression of the other zombies who had just passed the passing line. Instead, he looked a little melancholy. After the last zombie's results were announced, the unqualified locksmiths were immediately taken away by force. The specific place they were taken to was unknown. Dr. Swelling went to the top floor of the Internal Affairs building again to meet with the governor of the Dragon Boat. Han Dong was an ordinary zombie. He went forward to draw a district card. The zombie nation had a total of 18 districts. The foreign islanders who obtained the right to live in the zombie nation would decide which district to live in through this form of drawing lots. Although they were all located within the zombie nation, there were great differences between different districts. There were even differences in public security. Rumor had it that in the worst district, the new zombies couldn't even live for a few days. Therefore, before drawing lots, many zombies from large floating islands were praying quietly. They had some understanding of the districts of the zombie nation in advance, hoping that they could get a better district. When it was Han Dong's turn, he casually picked a wooden stick from the wooden box. 14, Oil Workshop District was printed on it. When the zombies not far away saw the wooden stick that Han Dong picked, they immediately covered their mouths to hide their laughter. It seemed that they had picked the worst one. Oil Workshop. Combined with the zombies' attributes, Han Dong could roughly guess some of the things. It seemed to be a little dangerous, but it might be a good district for Han Dong. Han Dong took the wooden stick and continued to go through the relevant procedures to enter the city. This is your civilian card. Remember to wear it on your body at all times. It's best to swallow it in your body. The patrolman in each district will often check the identity of individuals. The civilian card will be the only proof of identity. That's it. Is there no housing arrangement? Housing. The zombie who issued the civilian card lifted the talisman paper in front of his forehead and looked at Han Dong with a contemptuous look Do you think the zombie nation is a remote place like the floating islands? Every inch of land in the zombie nation is extremely expensive. Ordinary zombies are not qualified to get housing. But with your achievements, you don't have to worry about housing. You will experience a different life in the oil workshop district. Then, is there a job arrangement? Of course, when you arrive at the oil workshop district, you can choose an oil workshop to report to. There will be someone to arrange a position for you. When a zombie spoke, he maintained a sinister smile. If it was in the hybrid demon world, Han Dong would definitely punch such a yin and yang person. If there is no problem, take your civilian card and go down from here. The zombie pointed to the stairs behind him, which would lead to the outside of the dragon boat. The port responsible for docking the dragon boat was another transportation center. New zombies would be packed up in the port area and sent directly to the corresponding area through pipeline transportation to avoid them passing through other areas. Han Dong was confined in an ordinary coffin and slid quickly along the metal pipeline until the sliding stopped. The coffin had been sent to the graveyard in the oil workshop district. The individual needed to climb out of the ground by digging the soil on their own. It symbolized that the individual was reborn in the zombie nation and lived a new life. As soon as he climbed out, the strong smell of oil came from all directions. Although he couldn't breathe, Han Dong's body surface condensed a lot of oil droplets due to exposure to the air here. It seems that I really chose a bad area. Chapter 1190. Corpse Country, Imperial City, Tai Chi Palace. In front of the majestic palace, there was a special staircase made of a mixture of rock and metal, with a total of 1,008 steps. Two officials with black gauze hats and a fierce beast pattern on the chest of their official robes climbed the steps step by step and knelt in front of the door. One of them was the governor of the dragon boat. His skinny body was in sharp contrast to the broad physique of the other minister. First, the other person spoke. Your Majesty, the consumption rate of the locksmith is increasing day by day. Even if corpse collection is directly distributed to the surrounding floating islands, the number of zombies supplied can't make up for the increasing consumption. In addition, the efficiency of the recent expedition and hunting has significantly decreased. Your Majesty, please. Speaking of this, an extremely terrifying black gas like the limitless burial hell overflowed crazily, scaring the person. Zhu Yan, you can leave. Yes. Although this person still wanted to say something, considering his life and some other factors, he could only bow his head and retreat. Governor Pei, are you also here to explain such boring trifles to me? Governor Pei lowered his head and responded in a low voice. I'm here to report some things about the floating islands. Although many floating islands have corpse collection, as the foundation and the number of zombies has increased, the quality is uneven. However, I found a capable person on a small floating island. It defeated the zombie demon raised by the Imperial City on the floating island and successfully transferred the planting machinery on the zombie demon when it turned into a zombie. At the same time, it obtained double excellent results in the dragon boat assessment. If it is trained well, it will definitely achieve great things. Such a small matter shouldn't be the reason for your audience, right? Your Majesty, during this trip, I have observed that at least 30 chains have shown a state of tremor beyond the standard. As the assistant minister said, it may be related to the large loss of the locksmith, or it may be an early warning. You can leave, yes. Corpse Country, Oil Workshop, District the Cadaverine, needed for ordinary living corpses to evolve into zombies, was a material that was further separated and purified by mechanical technology. Even if the current world was disturbed by the rampagers, there must be a way to evolve. Cadaverine was one of the necessary materials. Apart from this, there were other uses for the remaining corpse oil after extracting the corpse essence. For example, the indispensable fuel for machinery, essential oils for maintaining the skin of the zombies on the upper levels, or the basic raw materials needed for the secret techniques of the zombies. Due to its wide range of uses, to the point that every zombie would use it. Corpse oil became the hard currency of the Corpse Kingdom. The Oil Workshop District was the district that was responsible for refining corpse oil. It was responsible for refining, controlling, and transporting corpse oil across the country. Logically speaking, such an important district would have extremely strict supervision. Indeed, both the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Rights had their own monitoring division here. However, they only monitored the oil and didn't pay much attention to the people. Han Dong, who had crawled out of the cemetery, was holding a civilian token that represented his identity. Since there was no residence, there was no designated area to report to. Han Dong casually strolled around the oil market district to get a general understanding of this place. Oil refineries are really dense. Is this a heavy industry area? No wonder the air here is filled with oil molecules. As for the raw materials used to refine corpse oil, they should be the zombies that died in the Corpse Kingdom for various reasons. After walking less than 2 streets, Han Dong saw 5 steam-powered carts passing by. The large carts carried a large number of zombies from other districts. Han Dong also discovered through his magic eye that some of the corpses were even wearing official uniforms. The injuries on the surface of the bodies seemed to be caused by fighting with some kind of ferocious beast. Are they exploiting the people? In addition to this kind of conventional transport carts, Han Dong also noticed some small movements in the oil market district. The residents living here would privately drag some corpses to the oil refinery to exchange for corpse oil. Of course, the oil refinery would naturally take a portion of the profits from this kind of private transaction. Even so, it was still a very good fortune in the hands of the residents. As for why these residents had corpses, it was caused by the local customs. It seems that it is indeed a bit dangerous. Since I came out of the cemetery until now, there are at least 20 malicious gazes. Am I a newcomer like a moving corpse oil? However, for some reason, these guys still don't dare to do anything openly, but it's only a matter of time before they find me. Han Dong didn't care and continued to stroll around. When he detoured from the oil refinery area to the ordinary residential area, the density of oil in the air was significantly reduced. Han Dong also felt a lot more comfortable overall, and his body was no longer greasy. The ratio of residential buildings to oil refineries was about 1:9, just as the zombie on the dragon boat said before. The land in the Corpse Kingdom was very expensive, and it was not something that ordinary people could afford. Most of the residential buildings were owned by peddlers to further exploit the zombies at the bottom. Most of the buildings were double-story and triple-story, and they were also combined with a mechanical style. When Han Dong walked here, he heard shouts immediately. Coffins for sale. All of them are good coffins. They are set with an internal encryption function. Once the coffin is sealed, it is difficult to directly open it from the outside. It will give you a comfortable and safe sleeping space. Do you want to condense corpse energy and get rid of the identity of a low-level zombie as soon as possible? Zhao family's Huaiwood coffin, your best choice. Most of the peddlers sold coffins. There are also a lot of connections involved in this. If you bought a coffin, you would naturally be slightly taken care of by the store. You would be allowed to rest in the coffin in the area near the store. At the same time, it could also serve as an advertisement. The shop owner would also provide some protection. If you didn't rely on coffins and just lay on the side of the road to sleep, it was very likely that you would be sold to the oil refinery when you woke up. Combined with the above situation, the oil refinery area formed a special scene. The streets and alleys were full of coffins, and the zombies as workers were all lying in their respective coffins to rest. When they woke up, they would also carry the coffin to work in the oil refinery. Of course, the price of these coffins was not cheap at all. Most of the workers bought them through loans, and they needed to work in the oil refinery for 10 or even 20 years to repay the loans. It's better to stay in a village. Why do you have to come out? However, whether it is the scene on the dragon boat or the situation in the oil refinery here, the zombie country is almost in a situation where the whole country is working. Anyway, it's impossible to work. Let's sleep first and try to get some money in other ways. Han Dong was also a little sleepy. He hadn't slept on the floating island, and his brain still needed to rest. Without the help of any coffin, he directly found a relatively flat ground and fell asleep. Naturally, he was soon targeted by a group of professional corpse pickers, and there was more than one force. Chapter 1191. The sleeping spot was carefully chosen by Han Dong. It was a hidden alley between the residential area and the oil refinery factory. It was a perfect place to commit a crime. In addition, the Ministry of Justice had increased their surveillance of the zombies, so it was difficult to make a move on the street. Han Dong was like a piece of fat meat that was delivered to their mouths. Moreover, those who were eyeing this piece of fat meat were hungry wolves that hadn't eaten meat for a long time. There were two groups of people who were attracted. Most of them were workers in the oil refinery. They gathered together to do some private work to reduce their burden as much as possible. Most of them were normal zombies like Han Dong. They maintained their jumping posture with their arms extended. However, the leaders of the two groups were abnormal zombies with certain characteristics. One of them was dragging an iron rod covered in plaque. His entire body was covered in corrosive plaque. Moreover, as a zombie, he still had the ability to breathe. However, the function of breathing was not to supply the lungs for the body to function. Instead, it was to deliberately absorb the toxins in the air and turn them into a deadly plague. The other one had huge pustules all over his body. They emitted a red glow and seemed to have explosive properties. This person directly took a pustules off his chest and threw it back and forth in his hand. Zhang Shiliang, this new guy is one of my subordinates. I saw this guy walk out of the cemetery. Don't tell me you don't know the rule of first come, first serve? Zhang Shiliang, who was holding the iron rod, took a deep breath and slowly exhaled from his mouth. Large and small corrosive pits appeared on the surrounding walls. What a coincidence! My men also saw him climb out of the cemetery. The two leaders were just talking. They didn't have any intention of starting a conflict. If a fight broke out in this area near the oil refinery, it would attract the Ministry of Justice's attention. It was no different from suicide. Under such circumstances, both sides would cut the target in half at the waist. After all, being cut in half at the waist wouldn't cause the zombie to die. They could even exchange it for an equivalent price at the oil refinery. Just as the two of them were about to suggest cutting in half at the waist, an ethereal, sinister, and strange laughter echoed in the alley. The laughter was like a parasite that drilled into every zombie's head, including the two leaders. This kind of parasitic sneer directly drew out the deepest resentment in the minds of the zombies. The resentment of the past surged into their hearts. The red cyst in the leader's hand was thrown to the opposite side. Who knew? Zhang Shiliang waved the iron rod in his hand, and like a baseball bat, he smashed the flying cyst. The deadly plague mixed with the iron rod immediately suppressed the explosive factor of the cyst. What these zombies didn't know was that the entrances and exits to the left and right alleys were sealed off by streams of pure seawater, isolating them from the outside world. The sound of the conflict that occurred here could not be transmitted to the outside world. A battle broke out in the alleyway. It was a battle to the death where primitive desires were aroused. One by one, the zombies' heads were smashed, their bodies exploded, and their hearts were pierced. Zhang Shiliang, who was holding the iron rod, had exhausted too much of his energy due to the plague in his body. He took a deep breath to replenish his energy, and this breath woke him up instantly. What's going on? Why did they start fighting? Furthermore, after causing such a huge commotion, the Ministry of Justice's black zombie still hasn't arrived? Just as he was in a daze, the leader, whose entire body was swollen with cysts, pounced on him, his eyes filled with madness. Crazy! Just as he was about to self-destruct, swoosh! Something directly pierced through the back of the leader's head. The red cysts all over his body immediately shriveled, and he died quickly. At this moment, only Zhang Shiliang, who was holding the iron rod, was left alive in the alleyway. The young man, who was regarded as the moving corpse oil by the two forces, was standing behind another leader. The strange tentacles that grew out of his hand were the main cause of his target's death. Zhang Shiliang, you should be the most capable and the smartest of these zombies. You should have a way to deal with the corpses here and exchange them all for corpse oil, right? Zhang Shiliang originally wanted to find a chance to escape, report the situation here to the Ministry of Justice, and blame all the deaths of the zombies on Han Dong's head. However, when he met the young man's gaze, he instinctively felt fear. The young man's gaze was even scarier than the Ministry of Justice's zombie division. Yes, but I need to exchange them one by one at a time. Also, I need to transfer these corpses to a safe place. Recently, the corpse country has begun to strengthen the management of the zombies. If this matter is exposed, I will be directly arrested by the Ministry of Justice. All right, do you have a safe place with you? Yes. However, it's a little far away. It's in the eastern district of the residential area. I bought an inconspicuous bungalow there. Do you have a map? Show me. Yes. Han Dong had already walked around the oil mill area. As Zhang Shiliang marked the place on the map, he immediately recalled the corresponding building's appearance and its exact location. Creak, creak, a tentacle the color of starlight grew out of Han Dong's palm. At the same time, it drew a formation on the ground of the alleyway. Zhang Shiliang looked at the strange tentacles in a daze. He could only treat it as a type of physical mutation. Move all the corpses here and pile them up in the formation. Oh, okay. Although Zhang Shiliang did not know what Han Dong wanted to do, he immediately did as he was told. The corpses are in place. What now? You stand in there too. Zhang Shiliang had heard rumors that the executives in the oil mill seemed to be able to refine corpse oil through some kind of secret formation without relying on machinery. The current scene was somewhat similar. What are you doing? When he asked this question, Han Dong directly slapped him in. With a flash of starlight, the next second, he appeared in the shabby bungalow that Zhang Shiliang had just bought. It was located at the most remote edge of the oil mill area. Although the house was shabby, it was very safe. This is a divine spell. Are you a secret officer of the Imperial Court's 7th Division? Hearing this, Han Dong knew that he had chosen the right person. This Zhang Shiliang seemed to know a lot of things. However, Han Dong did not pretend. It's not as much as you think. I'm just a zombie that just came here. In fact, I wanted to kill all of you just now, but I found that you're not bad. If I'm not wrong, you should be about to break through, right? Han Dong's magic, I could observe that the qi in Zhang Shiliang's dantian had signs of turning from white to green. Yes, as long as you do things for me, I will help you a little. Next, we'll bring a corpse to the oil refinery to return the money. Take me to familiarize me with the rules in the oil mill. At the same time, I have a lot of questions to ask you. Okay, after Zhang Shiliang saw the incredible space ability, he had already deified Han Dong in his heart. At the same time, Zhang Shiliang's lips would curl up from time to time. He always felt that things would make him laugh. Chapter 1192. The process of transporting corpses to the oil refinery for sale was not as simple as Han Dong imagined. Although Zhang Shiliang was considered a small boss in the local area, he still used conventional methods to transport corpses. After all, once he was discovered by the Ministry of Justice, he would be labeled as a human trafficker. He would be demoted to a locksmith or refined corpse oil. The so-called conventional method was a type of body transportation. Due to the physical characteristics of zombies, they did not need to maintain the integrity of their organs, blood vessels, and so on like humans. They only needed a unique heart to function normally. Therefore, they could disassemble the corpses they wanted to transport into small pieces, swallow them, and bring them to the oil refinery. Stuffing other people's bodies into one's own body would cause the body to swell. Therefore, they also needed a cloak to cover their whole body. However, since Han Dong was here, the transportation process was much more convenient. After swallowing all the disassembled corpses, he directly approached the oil refinery's alley using the void method. Not far ahead was the back door of the branch where Zhang Shiliang worked. Just getting close to the oil refinery made his whole body feel sticky. He even felt that if he stood still for a long time, his body would completely solidify in place like a wax statue. What a difficult working environment. It seems that being born in the hybrid demon world is quite good. After Zhang Shiliang stated his purpose of coming, someone immediately received him at the back door. His attitude was quite good. After all, the other party took half of the corpse oil as a handling fee. Moreover, the 50-50 was because of Zhang Shiliang, the local boss. Generally, people who came to deliver goods would give a 30-70 split. After weighing the corpses, they converted them into 2 small buckets of corpse oil according to the standard oil extraction ratio and handed them to Zhang Shiliang. Since the corpse oil was in his hands, he did not stay any longer. "Mr. Han, do we go back directly or—" "Let's go back first." I suddenly remembered something. When they returned to the old house, Han Dong stared at Zhang Shiliang's body from top to bottom. Compared to ordinary zombies, he had an additional ability to gather toxins and control them. In other words, he had a play control ability. You can inhale the toxins in the air and express them in various forms. Is this ability innate? Yes. From the beginning, I could condense my navel through breathing. Later, through learning corpse collection, I slowly applied it to different parts of my body. I could even attach it to weapons. Corpse collection? Can you explain it in detail? This question made Zhang Shiliang somewhat confused. In his mind, Han Dong should be a mysterious person in the 7th Department of the Court, the Ministry of Secrets. How could he ask such a basic question? But out of respect, he still answered carefully. Corpse Collection is a great book created by the emperors of the past dynasties. It doesn't refer to a specific book, but it refers to a book that can guide the cultivation of zombies. It's mainly managed by the Ministry of Personnel. Any zombie could create a related book. As long as the book passed the review of the Ministry of Official Personnel Affairs, it would be included in Corpse Collection. Of course, the difficulty of this was extremely high, and it was definitely not something an ordinary zombie could create. Due to the difference in authors, Corpse Collection was also divided into good and bad, high and low, as well as expensive ones. The one I cultivated was a low-grade corpse collection that could be bought directly from the market. It was called Poison Dissolving Heart Sutra. However, although we can buy them directly, and they're very low-level corpse collections, they're still very expensive for us. The amount of corpse oil needed to exchange for this book is about 15 small barrels. Oh, was it a masterpiece? This kind of management method is quite good. Hearing this, Han Dong became more interested in the cultivation method of zombies. He also decided to get a high-quality corpse collection to practice. After all, his body wasn't his, so it didn't matter how he did it. "Can you let me take a look at your corpse collection?" Of course. A simple booklet was handed to Han Dong. The cover was printed with the corpse collection seal, recognized by the Ministry of Personnel Affairs, along with the title and author of the book. He finished reading it in a short 10 minutes. In summary, it was a very rough book that could be borrowed. It also mentioned that by cultivating the Poison Dissolving Heart Sutra, one could reach the level of a black zombie at most. If one wanted to go any higher, they would have to change to a similar corpse collection. Naturally, this also led to the relevant levels of zombies. They were named according to the changes in their hair, aura, and color at different stages. The lowest level of zombies was the white zombie that Han Dong was currently a white zombie. If one wanted to go any higher, all the condensed gas in the white zombie's body would be turned into a high concentration of green gas, which meant that one would become a green zombie. Going one step further, the green gas would be completely purified and compressed, and a black pill would be constructed in the body, which would be a black zombie. Although it was only a change in color, the difference inside was quite huge. As long as one could become a green zombie, their freedom would be greatly increased. They could choose to take up some positions in local organizations, and they could also apply to participate in the selection competition of the Imperial Court. As for the black zombie, which was a higher level, they could be directly used by the Imperial Court. "Come here." Oh, just as Zhang Shiliang jumped in front of Han Dong, a hand was placed on his abdomen. Learning the way Demps used to adjust the magic circuit for Han Dong also began to adjust the circuit in Zhang Shiliang's body so that the poisonous gas in the body could circulate more efficiently throughout the body. Although Zhang Shiliang was a little scared, after all, there was a tentacle crawling around in his body. However, as time passed, he felt that his body was light and unusually smooth. Now, hurry up and use the poison-dissolving heart sutra. Okay, Zhang Shiliang followed the usual method of cultivation and used a type of breathing method to circulate his inner strength. This time, the feeling was completely different. The body that was completely opened up allowed the heart sutra to circulate without hindrance. Suddenly, the inner circulation mentioned in the heart sutra was completely completed, and the aura hidden in his dantian was also constantly deepening and turning green. Even the area 5 meters around Zhang Shiliang grew poisonous plaque. When he opened his eyes again, there were strands of green hair floating on the surface of his body, and his eyes were also emitting a green light. I actually advanced. The moment Zhang Shiliang realized this, he immediately stuck his body to the ground. Thank you, Mr. Han. Without your help, I don't know how long it would take for me to reach this stage. It's just a little help. If your performance is good, you might have a chance to become a black zombie. I'm willing to follow you for life. Han Dong stared at this extremely devout, green-haired zombie and could not help but laugh self-deprecatingly. This method felt very similar to the hybrid demons, who occasionally gave gifts to deepen the absolute worship of their believers. In fact, Han Dong was just interested in seeing how zombies advanced and the changes during the advancement. Not only did the control of poison increase, but the overall body also increased, especially in the hardness aspect. It seems that the biggest characteristic of the zombies in the tomb world is hardness. No matter what kind of cultivation path they take, the hardness of the body will increase. What a good attribute. If I can apply it to my ghoul, it will really have a miraculous effect. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.